And a welcome here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. We appreciate you being here inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. Great Lakes Honda City coming to you on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. You'll find Great Lakes Honda City open Monday through Saturday for sales and service. So you can go and check them out there on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. And of course, for a sneak peek at all of their inventory for those new and used vehicles and everything you can buy and lease, you can go to GreatLakesHondaCity.com. That's GreatLakesHondaCity.com. Happy to be here with you on today's broadcast of Wake Up Call, and I appreciate you all for navigating with me through my little sinus stuff that's been going on this week. So if I sound a little bit different, that is why, just so you know. And we're happy to be with you up and down the East Coast, the Midwest, the West Coast, and all around the globe on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora here on YouTube.com/WakeUpCallDT, Facebook.com/WakeUpCallDT, and on WakeUpCallDT.podbean.com. So however you're tuned into the show, we thank you so much for being here. And of course, on our Friday broadcast, inside of ModandPawsPopcorn.com's What's Poppin', we'll be bringing you our trio of signature Friday segments. We're going to start things off with the Annoying Moment of the Week, proudly presented by Carvel DeWitt. Then we'll jump into LEAD, the acronym that stands for Learn, Evolve, Ad-Lib, and Deliver. And then we'll have the Top Dog of the Week, proudly presented by K-9 Kamp Dog Daycare, before we conclude the show at 10:15 a.m. Eastern Time with a live conversation featuring the ACC coordinator of men's basketball officiating, who's no stranger to the broadcast, Bryan Kersey, who will get us ready for the upcoming 2025-26 men's college basketball season. So very excited for everything that is to come here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. And I appreciate you being here with us on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. We're pulling a double dose of each of these segments because as I was on the road last week, I had our special air with Pete Moore of Cicero, North Syracuse, who's strength and conditioning coach and overall just helps you with your wellness and your health, whatever that health may be. You know, that mental health, physical health, just social health. He helps you through so many things. He's more than just simply strength and conditioning. He's done a ton of work in our community. He cares about the kids. And of course, he helps out CNS, but he goes beyond that as well. And that special with him was so crucial to share that I wanted to make sure that we made that the spotlight of Friday. So we're going to be doing a double dose of all of our segments that are here this morning on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life, so that we can make good on this past week when we had the special with Pete Moore. So happy to be here with you. Thanks for hanging out with us. Let's jump right into it. So that means we're bringing you 2 annoying moments of the week, 2 different topics with lead, and 2 top dogs of the week before we welcome Bryan Kersey in an hour. So with that being said, let's jump into the annoying moment of the week.
Dan Tortora proudly brings you...
Is that for real? Are you kidding me?
The annoying moment of the week.
I really, honestly, I don't know how to respond to this.
Presented by Carvel DeWitt, 4322 East Genesee Street. It's what happy tastes like.
Do you have to be that crazy? I guess so.
The annoying moment of the week, proudly brought to you by Carvel DeWitt, 4322 East Genesee Street in DeWitt, New York. It is what happy tastes like. And it is time for us to jump into this annoying moment of the week. And we're going to have 2 of them, like I said, with us having last week and this week combined. So my first annoying moment of the week has got to be the people that travel. Now listen, I understand because I felt a little bit under the weather coming home. So I understand that sometimes you might be traveling and you might feel under the weather. It might come on all of a sudden. You might be fine the whole week and then all of a sudden you don't feel good. So I get that you may have to travel, and it may come at a time where something comes on suddenly and you just don't feel right. Here's the thing. If you can avoid traveling when you're not feeling good, I would do that, right? I would stay home. But if you have to travel and you have no choice, in my case, I'm not staying with a relative or anybody. I'm staying in New York City. There's a nor'easter storm that's supposed to be coming at the time, and my hotel stay is done. It's very expensive to stay in New York, so I got to get myself home, right? Here's the thing. If you have to travel, cover your face. If you're coughing, have something over your face. If you're sneezing, have something over your face. I understand that, I've said before, if you can stay home, stay home. Like if you live in New York City and you don't have to travel, unlike me when I was staying in a hotel, if you're physically living there and you can stay there, then stay there. But if you have to travel, if you have to get on a plane, then have the decency to cover your face. Have the decency to think of other people on the plane. I flew home from New York City. There was a lady hacking all over the place. And my mom flew yesterday, and it was the same thing. Cover your face, okay? We all have common etiquette here, or we should. Unless you were raised by wolves, which the way some human beings act, I feel like wolves probably would raise them better. But if you were raised by wolves, like think about it right now. I'm not feeling great. When I came home, I wasn't coughing. I got on the plane, I went to sleep. Did I feel 100%? No. But I wasn't coughing, went right to sleep. Right? Now that I have been, I've stayed away. Right? I've told people, give them a little elbow instead of shaking their hand. I've been sleeping. I've been staying away from everybody. Sanitizing like I do when I feel fine. I'm always sanitizing stuff. So just have the common decency that if you don't feel well, bring some sanitizer, bring a mask. Especially if you're on a plane or a bus or a train, some enclosed place with other people. Just think about other people. It's not that hard. Just think about other people. Okay? And that's really my first annoying moment of the week, is we don't think about each other. We think about ourselves. How can I get money? How can I get this? How can I get that? Listen, let me tell you something. Like, I just saw that there's 2 new podcasts coming out from people that I know. Now, if I sit here and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's new podcasts coming out, and these people are good, and I like them, or they're going to be seeking to interview people in the same area, I can't support them. That would be me being afraid of what they bring to the table. And if I'm afraid of what somebody else is bringing to the table, it's telling me that I really don't believe in myself. So you have a choice when somebody goes and does something. Like in my case, when new podcasts are coming out that could be pulling from the same pool that I pull from. You could support them and say, great job, good for you. Or you could be on the other side and be like, oh my gosh, they better not steal anything from me. They better not do this and that. Listen, when I came along, there was probably people that thought that. Who's this Dan Tortora guy? What's he doing encroaching on my territory? What's he doing working at my radio station? What's he doing reaching out to these people that I talk to? He interviewed that person before I interviewed that person, and he's 20 years younger than me. How did he get that done? Right? The reality is, think of other people. Right? If somebody's out there and they're not hurting anybody and they're chasing their dreams, support them. And so that's a part of caring for other people and hoping the best for them, right? Think of others. Think of their dreams, their aspirations. They want to put food on their table, right? If an actor's out there getting lead roles and all of a sudden these other 3 actors come in and this person's like, oh crap, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose everything. Then you are, because you're going to get off your game. Just keep being you. Keep being you. That's your superpower. There's a million people that think they're broadcasters now. And whether there's a million or there's 5. When I started broadcasting on the internet and people called it podcasting and people were trying to define it and all this stuff, there was little to no information that I went out there and sought. I just went out and did my thing. You know, I went out and did my thing. That's what I did. And I didn't think about, am I taking something from somebody? Am I doing this? Am I doing that? Because I wasn't trying to. My focus is on living my dreams. So if people are out there living their dreams, being kind and considerate and not stealing from other people and, you know, just going out and telling the truth, then I'm fine. When I come on the show and I challenge the media, it's the people that lie. It's the people that steal. It's the people that treat people horribly. It's the cutthroat people that are seeking to be transactional and pretend to have relationships. It's the people that try to cut down others. Those are the people that I challenge. Those are the people that I don't support. I support people that are going out there chasing after their dreams and doing it in a godly way. Do I wish bad on the people that are not doing it in a godly way? No. I just hope that they change for the better. But see, thinking of others, covering your face, wearing a mask if you're coughing on a plane, not traveling if you don't have to, not going to work if you got some days off that you can take. You know, one of my exes, I used to tell her, every time she went to work and somebody was sick, I would get sick. And she's like, well, you don't even care about me. I do care about you. I care about you a lot. I know that when you get sick for a few days. I get sick for over a month with whatever is going through this office. And so if she told me somebody was sick, hacking all over her during the day, it was in my brain that, okay, well, if she gets sick and I get sick, I'm going to be sick for a while. Right? So that person's not only not being considerate of the clients that are coming into that store, they're not being considerate of the other workers there, and they're not being considerate of the workers' loved ones. Right? Because I don't know this person that came in there and was sick, but she gets sick in front of my girlfriend gets me sick, now we're both sick in the house, and it goes on and on and on and on. I mean, we talk about it with schools all the time. People send their sick kids to school, and they get everybody sick, and then like there's 20 families, and 15 families get sick, and then 10 families get better, but then 5 of those 10 families get sick again because it just keeps cycling through the house. Like, think of other people. Not just this time of year when a lot of people get sick, but all the time. Think of other people. That's my annoying moment of the week. When someone's chasing their dreams and doing it in a godly way with morals and values, support them. They're not trying to hurt you. When you're on a plane and you're hacking all over the place, cover your mouth. Cover your mouth. You know, I would have felt terrible if I had a cough on the plane. I've had a little bit of one the last couple days because I'm breaking out whatever this stuff is and I'm getting rid of it. But just have compassion and concern for other people. It's not just about you. Okay? So my first annoying moment of the week, think of other people. Let's do the second one.
Dan Tortora proudly brings you...
Is that for real? Are you kidding me?
The annoying moment of the week.
I really, honestly, I don't know how to respond to this.
Presented by Carvel DeWitt, 4322 East Genesee Street. It's what happy tastes like.
Do you have to be that crazy? I guess so.
My other annoying moment of the week, proudly presented by Carvel DeWitt on 4322 East Genesee Street in DeWitt, New York. My other annoying moment has to be the fact that prices are so high in grocery shopping. I went with my dad to BJ's Wholesale Club. And I know you get stuff in bulk, right? But I bought cereal. I bought hand soap. I bought cookies. I bought snacks to take down to New York City and Charlotte in my travels. It cost me $98 to get what I got. I think one of the things, I bought razors, and the razors are really good. They're really good. It cost me $20, right? And you get a bunch of them, and like for the bulk, it's good. But I looked at my thing and I'm like, I didn't buy that much. I probably bought, I want to say I bought less than 15 items. Let's just break it down. Let's say if I bought 15. All right. So, but it cost me $98. It cost me $98 to get what I got. And I didn't get anything crazy, right? I go to the grocery store, I'll buy like 4 or 5 things. It's like $40, $60. And I'm like, what the hell? You know, my dog food, it's been staying where it's at, thank goodness. But like Lily's dog cookies are like $14 now. They're these like little soft, chewy cookies. No crazy flavor. I'm not buying some organic thing that's got, like the sprinkling of a fairy from the countryside. Like, I'm not buying any of that stuff. It costs like $14, $15. I remember I went and got some stuff, and like the most expensive thing I bought was Lily's dog cookies. And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, like, so when these companies are sitting here telling us, oh, everything's going up, like dog cookies, that's something that you make in your factory, right? So what the reality is gas price goes up. So the gas price goes up for the CEO that's got to drive into work. So then he says, oh, hell no, Karen, I'm not paying that. So then he takes the difference and he says, okay, so I'm going to calculate that it costs me more gas. Oh, now it costs more to change a part. Oh, now it costs more to run this. Oh, now electricity costs more. So the gas and electricity costs more. Oh, water costs more. So now to run my factory, I got to spend an extra X amount of dollars per day. So now let's charge that for the food, and then let's break it down and break even. Because the reality of it all is, if a business is making $50,000 after taxes, let's just make an example. So after taxes, a company takes home 50 grand and everything goes up. So now they're going to take home 42. They're like, nah, we're going to find that $8,000 somewhere else, so we still take home 50 grand. And who gets punished? The people. I lived through this example in college. I was working at a movie theater, and the movie theater had reels delivered, of course, to run the movies. So gas prices went up, and I'm trying to think around what time this was. So yeah, this was before the economic thing and all that. So gas prices went up, so it cost more for the company that makes the reels to drive. And I think they said the price of making the reel went up. So price of making the reel goes up. Then that company drives in, and I'm not sure if the gas went up or not. It might, but I think it was the price of the reel. So let's just go with that. So the price of the reel goes up. The company that drives the reel in, now it costs them more to make the reel. So when it costs them more to make the reel, they bring it to the movie theater I was working at. They charge the movie theater more money to get the reel because it costs them more to make it now. So it starts with the company that makes the reel. The price goes up to make the reel. They drop it off at the theater. They say, this is what it used to cost. Now this is what it costs, because now they're trying to make the difference. So they're trying to make up the difference of the cost of the reel going up to make it. And so now they're charging the movie theater more to take the reel. Then the movie theater says, okay, well, our ticket prices are X, Y, and Z. We're going to up all these to offset the fact that we just had to pay more for the reel. And who gets punished? The consumer. While I was working at that movie theater, the tickets just kept going up. And they would do it like a quarter, and then a quarter, and then a quarter, and then all of a sudden it's $1 more, right? So, I mean, it always falls back on the consumer. It always does. And that's the frustration that bothers me. You know, that's something that really bothers me. is the fact that, things have gone up. And I don't understand how they expect people to continue to afford this stuff. I'm going through the grocery store, and I'm blessed enough to own my own business, right? Now, when you own your own business, high risk, high reward, right? Because there's no ceiling, right? But you have to go and drum up all this business. So when you're working on that and you're trying to bring in the business, I can make whatever I want to make, right? You're trying to garner the business. My sky's the limit. If you're an entertainer, your sky's the limit, right? And so, there's certain people out there where you can continue to gain. But if you're working at a 9-to-5 job and your salary is your salary, then that's it. And if your salary doesn't go up from one year to the next and the price of all the food goes up, well, now your salary, let's say your salary is $40K. And let's say your groceries, and let's say your bills. So your salary is $40K. Let's say you got 2 kids in daycare. I'm going to gauge the numbers that people have told me over the years. So let's say you got 2 kids in daycare. Let's say you got to pay for groceries for you and your spouse and your 2 kids every month. Okay. So I'm adding all this stuff together. Let's say you have car insurance. Let's say you got to pay for your car. Let's say you got health insurance. All right. Let's say you have 3 credit card bills. We'll call them, you got to pay at least $50 a month, at least $100 a month, at least $150 a month. Okay. What am I missing here? Oh, you got gas and electric. Right? Let's say you got a phone bill. So just ballparking that. So you make $40,000 a year, right? And just ballparking this, you're spending almost, let's just call it $6,000. So you're spending $6,000 a month on bills and groceries. I didn't even put, well, let's just say I factored in gas because it was 5 something. So let's factor in gas, and let's say you spend $6,300 a month times 12. $6,300 a month times 12 is $75,600. And you make $40,000 a year. So you've now made negative $35,600. You know what I mean? So it's like things add up. And with things adding up, you got to pay attention to that. If like you say, I make $40,000 a year, okay, great. That's the big number. But if you got a family of 4 and you're spending $6,000 a year or $6,000 a month, in 6 months and half of that year, you've almost spent all of your earnings. You make $40,000 and you're spending $6,000 a month, then 6 months in, you've spent $36,000. What are you going to do for the rest of the year? So as prices continue to go up, it's putting a squeeze on everybody. It's making people angry. It's making people nervous. It's making people concerned. It's making people worried. It's making people depressed. So you have to be, we got to look at this. The people that represent us have to care. They have to care. I'm so sick and tired of having a government where, they shut this down and they move this over here and they do this and they do that. You can like a presidential candidate, not like a presidential candidate. When a presidential candidate comes up and says, we're saving hundreds of thousands of dollars because we're cutting off all of this government spending that we're doing here, here, and here, and then they're telling you what they're spending it on, and it's stuff that doesn't even make sense. It all sounds like shell companies. And you turn around, the government says, okay, I came in here as president of the United States. I had them check into this stuff, and we found $1 trillion. If you found an extra $15 for the government, I'd be like, yay, let's go. But we found $1 trillion, okay, of government waste. We need to find a way, because this is a democracy, right? It's supposed to be. We have to find a way to hold the people accountable that are voted into power. Because there has to be some type of system that doesn't allow for the consumer to get killed on all these prices all the time. It always fades back onto the consumer. I know some people might be watching going, laughing, saying, yeah, okay, Dan, that's never going to happen. Well, guess what? There's a lot more of us than there are of them. There's a lot more of us than there are CEOs, right? And I'm a CEO of my company, and I'm not charging the man. In all honesty, there's people that pre-COVID are paying the same prices that they paid to me before then, because I grandfathered them in. I'm probably one of the only businesses in America that didn't raise my prices during or after COVID to the business that I was currently with, right? If you're a new business, then I can look and say, okay, these are what our prices are. But if you're a business that came in and that's been with me for 10 years, and I've kept the price the same, there's businesses that can say that I didn't punish them during COVID. I didn't punish them post-COVID, and I haven't punished them since. And so, I'm trying to be one of the places that they don't have to worry about. And I just wonder how many business people care about that, how many CEOs care about that. If you're rich, and you're going to be a little less rich this year, if you just give a little bit more to everybody else, you give a little bit more to the people working under you, or whatever that may be, let's say you make $2 million a year, okay? You make $2 million a year, and you got 40 employees. So let's say this year, instead of $2 million, you only take $1 million salary and you divide it amongst your 40 employees. That's giving everybody another $25,000. So to that family to that person that has a family of 4 that makes $40,000 a year and is spending almost $76,000 a year, okay, now all of a sudden that $40,000 a year plus the $25,000 that the CEO gave, now they're making $65,000. Now they just got to figure out $10,000 instead of having to figure out the excess that they had of $35,000, right? Now they're in a place where they're getting closer to getting back even. First annoying moment of the week, think of other people. Prices being too much in this country goes right back to that first annoying moment, with my second annoying moment being about things being too high. It goes right back to thinking of other people. If you're a rich person, and again, listen, I don't knock people for being rich, and some people do it the right way, right? Some people aren't stepping on people's heads and cutting people's throats to get there. Some people worked really hard to get there, and they achieved it, and you shouldn't be spit on for being rich. What I'm saying is, can a family, look at the grocery stores we have in central and upstate New York. We know the family that owns that grocery store and the company that owns that grocery, whatever it is now, but it all started being a family grocery store, right? Their strawberries, let's say they used to be $2.99. Do they have to be $6.99 right now? Does that family really need that other $4? Or can they afford to maybe make them $3.99, meet us somewhere in the middle, and yeah, they're $1 more, but they're not $4 more. We all just have to think about each other. And we got to do something in this democracy where we're not spending the amount of money. If you pay attention when you go to the grocery store, I spent $100 multiple times recently here, or close to $100 multiple times. And I'm thinking to myself, how in the heck did I get even close to spending $100? I think I spent $98 with my dad, 90 something dollars with my mom. And I'm looking at my cart going what the heck did I get? I got lettuce and strawberries and, cereal and water. So, to the businesses out there that can afford to not have to punish the rest of the world, just please consider other people. I'm not saying don't bring food home to your family, and I'm not saying your prices didn't go up. I'm saying if every time something goes up, the prices go up with it, and the consumer keeps getting punished, you're going to have more homeless people. You're going to have more people that can't pay their bills. You're going to have more people asking for government aid, which is ultimately going to cost us more, which is going to keep us on this hamster wheel running forever. So if we can find a way to be more considerate of other people and to figure out a way to be fair on our prices, then maybe we can all get back to taking a collective deep breath together and be able to sit on that couch and not have to worry about where that money's going to come from this month. Because there are some families out there that can't afford you to raise their groceries $3 more collectively. So let's just think of other people. Mike said his annoying moment of the week is the reporter that asked Fran Brown if he's interested in the Penn State job. Yeah, dude, I talked about that. That could easily be my annoying moment of the week. I'm happy I wasn't in the room that day. I was supposed to be in the room, and my flight got delayed getting out of New York City, and I'm happy I wasn't in the room. Because here's the thing. Let me just say this really quick. With going off of your thing, Mike, with that being your annoying moment of the week, let me just say this really quick. Do you know any job in the world where if a person was interested in leaving their current job for another job, they would say it on live video and audio to the world while they're standing on premises of the job they're working at? Do you know anyone who's working at a law firm who would say on camera, I'm leaving this law firm for the one across the street while they're working at the law firm that they're leaving? Do you know anybody in America that would say, I'm leaving this airline for that airline while they're standing on the plane of the airline that they're working at? So just take those examples and then put that into coaching, because people treat it like it's different. It's not different. If you're at a current employer and you're working for them and they're paying you and you want your check to clear, why, even if you were interested in another job, why would you say something on camera, on recording, on audio? Like, why would you say it? I wouldn't say it at the water cooler, right? When I've known that I'm going to leave a place, I'm not going around telling everybody, hey, I'm leaving, hey, I'm leaving, hey, I'm leaving, hey, I'm leaving. I'm not going on Facebook live stream and telling everybody I'm leaving. You know what I mean? Like, when I left to start my company, I didn't diminish where I was to go talk about where I'm going. I didn't say screw these people and this and that. Like, I appreciate that they gave me a job. I appreciate that they gave me an opportunity. It ultimately wasn't the right fit for me, and I made another decision. But I appreciate the opportunity. I appreciate the experience. I appreciate the job. I appreciate the memories. I appreciate the relationships that I built and what I got to do there, and I will forever be grateful for the opportunity. I don't know why people treat coaches like it's any other job. Why would a coach tell you, yeah, I'm interested in going over here? Because if I'm Syracuse University and Fran Brown gives me any type of response that sounds like he's interested, then I'll go, all right, get you out this contract. There you go. There's your buyout. You got to pay, honey. Go stand on the corner, right? You know, I mean, you have to think about this. What moron would step to a podium and say, yeah, I'm interested in leaving this place for this place. Yeah, I'm interested in taking this job. You know what? I'm going to take this job at the end of the year. Who would do that in front of their current employer in any genre of business? Nobody. That's why it's a stupid question to ask. It's also a stupid question to ask because you know what you're going to do. I mean, what type of answer do you think you're going to get? Do you really think a coach would be that dumb to tell his current employer, I'm about to screw you over at the end of the season, but let's go have the second half of the season together? They got a half a season to play. I don't care if it was one game. They got a half a season to play, though. Think about that. You got half of Syracuse's schedule still yet to be played. Fran would have to, like, even if Fran was interested in the job, he would have to be brainless to go to the podium and say, yeah, you know what? Thanks for asking me that question. I am really interested in leaving for Penn State. Do you have a contact there that I can call that can get me the job? Like, so to the fans that are like, Dan, you got to ask that question. Telling to the media, you got to ask those questions. You got to ask that question. You got to ask that question. I want those people to ask themselves today that if they went and had a press conference in front of their boss's office and told the world that they were leaving their current place of work to go work somewhere else, how that would go for them. Because sometimes in order to show somebody how stupid something is, you have to take their life and you have to give them a parallel. And you have to say, okay, you work at Wegmans. Would you go to Wegmans today, get on the loudspeaker, and talk about how you're going to leave to go to Target in 3 months? How do you think that would go for you at Wegmans? Case closed. Only an idiot would be working at a job and tell the world, yeah, I want to go work somewhere else. Can't wait for it. How do you think that would go? So sometimes you just have to think about the stupidity of situation. I know people are worried about Fran leaving. They've been worried about Fran leaving since he went 10-3 last year. But to think that he's going to answer that question in that setting in the middle of a season in front of his employer, insane. We'll take a step aside for a fast break. We'll be back right after this. Inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios, this has been a double dose of the annoying moment of the week.
In these unique times, there are those in our community that give us a sense of normalcy and positivity. Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville has been here for you for over 35 years and is here now. Call 315-638-1234 or order online at pizzamanbville.com to bring those familiar tastes into your home. And remember to come see our monthly on-site broadcasts centered around the community and our Baldwinsville Bees. Pizza Man in Baldwinsville. Any way you slice it, they are always here for you. Looking for your next ride? Look no further than Great Lakes Honda City, located on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Serving our community for decades, their new and pre-owned vast array of vehicles are available to you Monday through Saturday on site. To search from home, shop at GreatLakesHondaCity.com. Call 315-365-5576 to set up an appointment. That's 315-365-5576 for Great Lakes Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Great cars, great people, Great Lakes.
All right, you need to come out here and get yourself the Brooklyn Pickle. I was talking about this with one of my buddies. I was like, yo, there's no better sandwich in the state of New York than the Brooklyn Pickle. And now that I found out that they're going down to North Carolina, we are taking over your taste buds everywhere you are, wherever you're going to be. You need to get yourself out to the Brooklyn Pickle. Pinehurst, you just realized that you found yourself the best sandwich shop that you're ever going to have. This is a glorious moment. It's a blessing to your community. You're welcome. Brooklyn in the house, baby. Go over to the Brooklyn Pickle. You already know what it is.
You heard the man. Head to Brooklyn Pickle Pinehurst on 1788 Old Morgantown Road in Southern Pines, North Carolina. Avicoli's Restaurant, located on 7839 Oswego Road in Liverpool, New York, has been serving our community for decades. Your place to go for home cooking on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road is just minutes from Liverpool High School. And every single month, Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora is on site, on location, with Liverpool sports, student athletes, coaches, and administration telling their stories throughout the year. We look forward to seeing you on site at Avicoli's for their casual pizza side, their fine dining, as well as their bar. And of course, you can order online at myavicolis.com. That's myavicollis.com. For takeout, delivery, and catering, call 315-622-5100. That's 315-622-5100. Come on into the neighborhood spot Avicoli's, open 7 days a week in Liverpool, New York. K-9 Campground Dog Boarding is your home away from home for your furry-loving friends. Open 7 days a week with drop-off and pickup times in the morning and later on in the day and early evening. K-9 Campground Dog Boarding is the spot to trust with your dog for short and long-term stays. Call 315-299-4013 for more information. That's 315-299-4013, and go to K9Campground.com as well. That's K9, KAMP, ground.com, where you will find all of the information on their different cabins, which include the classic cabin, executive cabin, grand cabin, and luxury cabin. K9 Campground Dog Boarding, where your dog will have indoor and outdoor areas as well as their own private cabin for any size, any breed, as well as dogs with different needs. Dog parents and dogs alike choose K9 Campground Dog Boarding. Isn't that right, Lily? Looking for your next ride? Look no further than Great Lakes Honda City, located on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Serving our community for decades, their new and pre-owned vast array of vehicles are available to you Monday through Saturday on site. To search from home, shop at GreatLakesHondaCity.com. Call 315-365-5576 to set up an appointment. That's 315-365-5576 for Great Lakes Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Great cars, great people, Great Lakes.
And welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. We appreciate you being with us up and down the East Coast, the Midwest, the West Coast, and all around the globe on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora from inside of the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. Can't thank you enough for being a part of the show here where sports truly meets that thing called life. You can go see Great Lakes Honda City open Monday through Saturday for sales and service and get a sneak peek by going to GreatLakesHondaCity.com. Thanks again to Carvel DeWitt for the annoying moment of the week. Whatever annoys you this week or any week, know that you can take a deep breath and go get those flavors that you love at Carvel DeWitt, 4322 East Genesee Street in DeWitt, New York, every single week. It's now time for Lead. We got two topics. First one, be about it. Be about it. Now, you realize that I didn't say don't talk about it, be about it, because you can talk about it, right? You can talk to people about your dreams and aspirations. You can talk to people about the things that you hope for in life. You're allowed to do that, right? You can talk about the things that you want to accomplish. But the important thing is to be about it, because everybody talks about what they want to do, right? Well, I shouldn't say everybody talks about what they want to do, but a lot of people talk about this is what I want to do. This is what I want to achieve. This is where I want to get in my life. But how many people are about it? You got to be about it. You got to put the work in, the blood, the sweat, the tears. I know it. I do it. I live it. If you want to get it done, you got to get it done, right? I've told some people about some things that I want to work on. But if I haven't worked on it yet, I need to shut my mouth. Don't talk about it. Don't just talk about it. Be about it. And I would argue, don't even talk about it. Because I think I should have told my mom and my dad and maybe my best friend what I'm working on. But I told some other people, hey, I'm thinking about working on this. I'm thinking about working on that. I love a line from Nicki Minaj where she says, and I never mention everything I dabble in. I never mention everything that I'm working on. I never mention all of it, right? I don't let y'all know everything that's coming up. And I think that thinking of the example in my head, could have done a lot better job of saying, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. I'm going to talk to God. I'm going to talk to mom and dad. Maybe I'm going to talk to this person I'm very close with. And then, but I started telling people, and now I'm sitting here going, but you haven't done a lick of work on that. But you haven't put the pen to the paper yet. So now I'm not talking about it. I'm going to be about it. So that's exactly what that topic means. The importance of don't just talk about it, Be about it. Be about it. If that's what you want to do in your life, be about it. It's important for us to remember that. Because so many people can talk about all the great things that they're going to do. But how many people are out there actually doing the things that they say they're going to do? Putting the work in, that's the majority of the iceberg that's under the water. You don't see it. So much of what we do is not seen. People have no idea what goes in to putting together a broadcast. If you came into my studio and you saw the background of everything that I have to do to make sure that everything is set up for this to be a full broadcast, I'm directing, producing, editing, and hosting my show, and if anything goes wrong, I'm the technical operator for it. All at the same time. You think I'm just sitting here with a microphone? Nope. There's a lot of things going on. But you can't just talk about it. You got to be about it. You got to know what you're doing. If somebody wants something, see, I want my go-getters, right? If somebody says to me, Dan, I'd love to help you, but I never hear from them, guess you didn't, right? It's not my job to chase down your dreams. Because when I wanted something in my life, I went after it. I didn't just call somebody up and say, hey, love to work for you. Now I'm going to wait. I called and I called and I called. And maybe that's maybe that's what this generation, what like the youth of today is missing. By the way, picture of G Mama, love her. Both of my grandmas, my Gammy and my G Mama. Maybe that's what this world is missing right now. With social media and people just being weird about talking to people. Like I could talk on social media and I could text all day, but I can't talk on the phone and I can't look somebody in the eye. If you want something in your life, you got to go after it. I'm the type of boss, I'm never going to hire somebody who doesn't come to me and like show me that they want it. I'm never going to hire you. If you don't do that, I'm not going to hire you. If you come to me one time and I haven't heard from you, if you want it, you keep in touch, right? Because I respect a go-getter. Don't just talk about it, be about it, right? Be about it. If you want a job and you come to a company to hire you, you don't put it all, okay, well, I want to work for you, so you figure it out. Now you got to come, you got to keep coming. You got to keep coming after it. Because I know what that takes. I know how uncomfortable it is, and how difficult it feels at times, and how out of place it feels. To call up a place like every other day. To get my job on ESPN 1080, the team in Orlando, I had to call and call and call and call and call and call. I felt so out of place, felt out of character. I didn't want to do it. Like, it felt weird for me. I'm calling him like 3 times a week, the general manager. You know what he told me? If you didn't do that, if you didn't stay on me and you didn't keep calling me, I would have forgotten about you. So like you got the job because you pushed. You got the job because you kept calling me. When I'm sitting here feeling like I need to apologize for the 30 phone calls he got, he's like, nah, you wouldn't have gotten the job if you didn't keep calling me. So can't just talk about it. You got to be about it. You got to be willing to chase the things that you want in life. Nobody's going to chase them for you. Our second topic for Lead, Learn, Evolve, Ad Lib, and Deliver, proudly presented by the wonderful team led by the absolutely amazingly hardworking, dedicated, good soul of a brother that I have, Jimmer Sikowski. Our next topic, when the door doesn't open. Well, that kind of goes from the last topic to this one. Don't just talk about it, be about it. Keep knocking, knocking, knocking. Sometimes the door doesn't open because the door ain't going to open. And sometimes the door does because it's not your door. And sometimes the door doesn't open because you got to keep knocking. Well, Dan, how do I know? You got to keep trying. You'll know. You know, people tell you when you're like going through your life and somebody says like, how am I supposed to know when this is this and this and that? And somebody just tells you you'll know. And it's so aggravating you because you're like, yeah, but how am I going to know? And they're just like, you'll know. You'll just know. And here I am at 39 years old telling you, yeah, you'll just know. You'll just know. You'll know when the door's not going to open. And you'll know when you got to keep pushing. When I wanted that job down in Orlando, something inside of me was like, man, I really don't like having to call this guy and feel like I'm bothering him and, just be put in that. I didn't want to keep having to call. But I wanted the opportunity. And I felt like there was something there. And obviously there was something within the conversations that we had that made me feel like, this person isn't like a no, it's potentially a maybe. It's a I'm thinking about it. So, okay, then I got to keep pushing for it. I got to keep pushing for this opportunity. And I did. And I got it. And that's something that you have to think about in your, like, I kept going after that door, but there were other doors that I applied to that I didn't keep going after that door. I said, all right, you know what? I don't think that's my door. And this is in friendships. There was a friendship I had. Didn't think about the door. Just kind of walked through it. Fast friends. Connected. Door felt like it shut on my foot. I tried to open it. It opened. Nobody apologized for slamming the door on my foot. But the door was open. Then I shut the door. And the person on the other side jiggled the handle a couple times and never tried to open it. And I thought, all right, that's not my door. See, sometimes the door is your door when the door doesn't open, right? Sometimes it's you. It's not the door you're trying to open. Sometimes you're the door. Sometimes you're not going up to the door. You're the door. Or you're on the other side of it. Sometimes it's you, right? Because this person, they lied to you. They said they were going to change. They hurt you. They said they were going to change. They lied. They did it again. They lied. They did it again. So now you're the door that's not opening. So sometimes when the door doesn't open, it's you protecting yourself. It's you looking out for yourself, looking out for your family, looking out for what matters. So what do we do when doors don't open? How do we deal with it? Right? Well, Dan, I want to date this girl. I can't stop thinking about her. I'm walking up and down the halls in school. She's all I think about. You think I didn't have those situations? You think I didn't have a crush in high school? Where I just saw her and I just stared at her. Thought to myself, man, we could have a family. You have that high school daydream, right? Watch Saved by the Bell if you don't know what I'm talking about. You have that high school daydream and you're just carried off into the air and you got 2 kids and she's beautiful and, you're on the beach and you're just hanging out and it's a perfect relationship. I know as much about her now as I knew about her when I was in high school, which is almost nothing, right? I had a high school crush. We all got high school crushes, right? I had a high school crush and I don't even think she knows to this day that I had a crush on her because I didn't really say anything, right? I was too afraid to open the door. I wanted it so bad, but I was scared that I wouldn't get it. And I can go back to 8th grade at a dance in the cafeteria, and she was standing by herself, and I was looking at her, and I thought to myself, man, I can't believe that no one's dancing with this girl. I can't believe nobody's slow dancing with this girl. The whole night I waited to want to dance with this girl. And I was finally trying to muster up the courage to go over and ask her to dance. And this guy's buddies pushed him up over to her. He asked her. She said yes. They ended up dating. And I just stood there. And I thought to myself, when I look back on it now, the next time that I want to see if a door opens, I better walk up. I better turn the handle. And I better see what happens. Because I don't regret it because she wasn't my girl. Right? There were other times where she was single. But I don't regret because I don't, I'm not a person that lives with a pile of regrets, but I learned a lesson that day. That I would rather walk up to her and have her say, no, I don't want to dance with you, than to not ask her at all. And that could have been any girl. And that could have been any job. Now, I don't care at this point. In the sense, and like, I care. I'm not, like, it's not I don't care about people. I'm saying, like, I don't care at this point. Like, if I go and I ask somebody out and she says no, I bet. On to the next one, right? Like, now it's like, okay, she ain't my person, right? But I'm going to go up to the door and I'm going to see if it opens. And if it doesn't open, then I'm going to move on. And I guess it's just time and experience that helps you get to that. I wasn't like that before. I was like, no, this is my only door. It's my only door, God. My only door that you're ever going to give me. This is the door. It's got to open. It's got to open. And I'm going to sit here at the door and waiting for it to. And then you grow older and you realize that some doors are not your doors. And just because the girl you have a crush on, the guy you have a crush on, doesn't want to date you, doesn't mean you're not attractive. Doesn't mean you're not funny. Doesn't mean you're not special. It doesn't mean you're not important. It doesn't mean you're not intelligent or good enough. If you don't get the job, it doesn't mean any of those things either, right? Sometimes it means work harder. Sometimes it means be more confident. Sometimes it means work on some things. Sometimes it just didn't work, right? But the reality of it all is I want you to go and I want you to try to open doors. And they're not all going to open. And some of them are going to open because the devil does his thing. Some of them are going to open. He's going to be like, walk through. And you're going to be like, okay, because I think it's God, because the door opened. And you're going to go to walk through, and you're going to have all these signs that you shouldn't be going through this door. And you need to back it up and shut that door, right? Some doors open because it's a test to not go through them, right? Some doors don't open right away, but you got to stick with it. Some doors open right away, and it's not necessarily the best door. Maybe it's the best door right now. But you learn all that through life. It's not black and white. Because the door didn't open right away for me to get a job at ESPN in Scranton, at ESPN in Syracuse, at ESPN in Orlando. You know, I don't think the score 1260 happened right away. I had to keep calling, right? So things don't happen immediately. Because what do they say? Things that come easily go just as easily. And that's very true. That's very true in a lot of cases. Because things take time. So when a door is closed, you know, I've learned, and I take the example of dating because I am a single person, like, I just move on to the next one. I told one girl, I asked her out a couple times and she was making excuses. I got to do this, I got to do that. And I said, all right, cool. You know, sounds like you don't want to go out. I'm cool with that. I'm never going to ask you out again. And she laughed. And I was like, I'm not kidding. I'm like, I'm not asking you out again. Like, I appreciate the fact that we talked. Appreciate the fact we got to know each other. You're not interested. I hear that. I'm not going to ask you out again. I'm not wasting my time. I'm not going to waste your time. I'm not playing games with you. Because if you really wanted to go out with me, you'd figure out a time. I gave you options. I didn't say this day, this time, and that's it. I gave you options. I listened to your schedule. I gave you options off of that schedule. You made excuses. So I'm not doing it no more. I'm taking my hat out the ring and I'm moving on. I guess some people think you're joking because they say like some people want to be chased, right? And that's stupid to me, right? I can't tell you how many women told me, you know, we like a little chase, Dan. We like you to be a little bit mean to us. We don't want you to tell us how you feel. We want to like pull it out of you, so to speak. You know, it's like we don't want you to be so available. We want We want you to be there, but not there. We want you, and it's like, once you start confused, like I'm going to be me, okay? I'm a loving, caring person. I'm going to tell people I love that I love them. I'm going to tell people I care that I care about them. I'm going to go after things that I want in my life. I'm not going to go after things I don't want. I'm going to stay away from drama. I'm going to go toward peace. I don't have time to be like, you need to be dramatic, Dan, and you need to cat and mouse me. You need to Tom and Jerry. If you want to really get me, I'm telling you in advance that you can't tell me how you feel about me right away. You got to make me work for it. Give me a little bit at a time. Don't give me all of it. I got to just take it in pieces. I got to do that. I got to do that. And it's like, bro, that's way too much. And I've tried, and you try to play the game, and it doesn't work because anybody that asks you to play games with them is not worth having in your life. Okay? There's a reason why games come in boxes and they go back in them when you're done. Right? They're not meant to be played all the time. And people that want to do that, you know, I tell people, you want to play games? Get a board game out. Let's play. Turn on the Xbox. Let's get some PlayStation. You know, when somebody says, my door's open, but I'm going to shut it just to see if you'll open it, I'm going to shut it 3 times to make sure you open it 3 times. And if you open it 3 times, then I'll give you a 4th time. Then 3 months from now, I'm going to shut it again, see if you open it, because I need you to do all these things so that I know that you're the... No. Sometimes the door doesn't open because it's not your door. Sometimes the door doesn't open right away because God wants to see how much you want it. And the only way you're going to learn about the doors that are meant to open for you is if you have the courage and the belief and the faith to walk to that door, to try to open that door, and to see what happens. And when that door opens, it is up to you and the knowledge and the wisdom you gained and your prayers to God and your faith in God and your faith in yourself to understand that some open doors are meant to be closed and some closed doors will open eventually. It's not an exact science and it's not easy. But watching the season 2 finale of Peacemaker, some of the doors that open, you're not supposed to go through. And some doors just don't open. And that could be a warning, or it could just mean it takes a little more time. But you don't know until you know, and you don't know until you try. And what I want to tell you is, when you're going after something in your life and the door doesn't open, that first girl you ask out that you think is going to be your wife and she says no, or that guy says no, it doesn't mean that there's not other doors. And it doesn't mean this is the only door. It may feel like it's the only door right now, but if it ain't opening, it's not the door that God has for you. You might apply to 40 jobs and get 40 no's. So go try to open the 41st door. Doors not opening right away or not opening at all. There's always a lesson in everything that God's trying to teach you, in everything that we're doing. There's always a lesson. And if we're willing to listen, we'll get the lesson. So just make sure that when that door does open, that you're ready. Because you never know when the door is going to open on a relationship, a friendship, a job, or maybe a family member that you haven't talked to in a while. Don't get discouraged if the door doesn't open. That's coming from Lead, Learn, Evolve, Ad-Lib, and Deliver, proudly presented by Chick-fil-A Cicero. We got Bryan Kersey, who's going to be coming on in just a moment, but we're going to do this quick here. We have a double dose of the Top Dog of the Week. Top Dog of the Week, proudly presented by K-9 Kamp Dog Daycare and K-9 Campground. Dog boarding is our place that we've had for so many years that brings you all of the special things that we have coming up. We got a new video coming up with them. So for those of you that know the daycare and the campground, we appreciate you for going over there. K-9 Kamp Dog Daycare, it brings you the Top Dog of the Week. You can call them for daycare for your dog of any size, any breed, 315-437-7110. And you can also go to K-9 Kamp.com. That's K-9 Kamp.com. Lorraine, Chad, and the team, they don't just take any dog. They have to make sure your dog has a good temperament, that your dog's going to be safe around other dogs, and that other dogs are going to be safe around your dog. So this isn't just, hey, I'm throwing my dog in the daycare and going on and doing this. These are people that care. They care about everyone that comes in. They care about all the dogs, and they want to make sure that your dog is in a safe environment, you feel good, and they feel good while you go about your day. So make sure you give a call to the place that I would call for dog daycare. K-9 Kamp Dog Daycare, 315-437-7110. Giving you 2 top dogs of the week this week. My first top dog of the week has to go to Joe Flacco. Sweet mother. That man is something else. 18 years in the NFL. And boy, am I proud that I backed him when he came in as a rookie. When he came, see, I trust my gut. And typically, like every draft, and I don't know why it's been this, but I pick a quarterback or 2 or 3 or whatever. Sometimes I pick none. And so in that draft class, I picked Joe Flacco. And, I had some other people that obviously did well, but we're talking about Joe right now as our top dog of the week. I picked Joe. And whether people liked it or not, I didn't care, because I'm going to stick by what I stick by. And I stuck by Joe Flacco. I thought Joe was going to be the guy. And he went to the playoffs in his first season in the NFL. He won a Super Bowl. And now in his 18th year, he led a comeback and threw more completions to Jamar Chase than any Bengal in the history of the Cincinnati Bengals. No one on the Cincinnati Bengals has ever caught 16 passes in a game. So Jamar Chase has a new single game record. The Cincinnati Bengals have a new single game record. And it didn't come from Joe Burrow. It came from Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco doing his thing. Somebody had a sign in the stands, said, "Let's go Joe 2.0. Shout out to that. Awesome job by Joe Flacco. He's my top dog of the week because this dude is timeless. And I can't believe it was 18 years ago that I backed him, which is insane. But I backed Joe Flacco then. I'm happy I did it. I'm proud to continue to do it. He is my first top dog of the week. And Bryan Kersey is coming up in just a moment. So if Bryan can hear us, we'll have him get his video ready so we can pop him on here in just a second. And then our second top dog of the week that we'll do really quick here, proudly presented by K-9 Kamp Dog Daycare. My second top dog has got to be Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech football. Georgia Tech football is undefeated. Georgia Tech football is dangerous. And you got a taste of that if you were at ACC kickoff or you watched ACC kickoff. Because when Haynes King, their quarterback, stepped to the podium, he said something to me that wasn't just a message to Georgia, it was a message to everybody. When he said, "And it's to hell with Georgia." When he said that, I thought, this boy's ready to play football. Brent Key, Haynes King, Jamal Haynes, this team, Georgia Tech, they have been a force to be reckoned with. And for those that overlook them, they're going to take advantage of that. And for those that don't, they're going to be ready for you. Now, I let out my top 25 because I don't agree with the AP and the coaches' polls of what I've seen. So my top 25, it does have Georgia Tech at 12. And that might be one of the things that we actually agree on, that they're just outside of the top 10. But they're 6-0. They're a dangerous team. And I think that they and Miami, and I consider Miami the number one team in the nation right now, so I put them as my number one, not Ohio State. I believe that if Miami and Georgia Tech continue to do what they're doing, continue to win, and continue to push toward undefeated seasons or a one-loss season, somebody's got to win the ACC championship, right? I think both of these teams, especially if they have one loss between them, should make the college football playoff. And I will fight for Miami and Georgia Tech because I wouldn't want to play either one of them right now. So, Georgia Tech, you are my other top dog of the week. because I felt the fire before the season started, and halfway through the season, you let me know that that wasn't something that I was just feeling by accident. That fire is a real thing, and it wasn't a mirage. So shout out to Georgia Tech, our other top dog of the week for this week. With that being said, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life, I'm honored and privileged to have Bryan Kersey here with me, the ACC coordinator of men's basketball, officiating in the 2025-26 season as we step forward here. And he just heard me talk about Georgia Tech, so I'm sure that might be music to Bryan's ears that I mentioned something ACC related. Mr. Kersey, how are we doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing very well. So, yeah, I mean, we're about to step into this. You are in a position right now where you've gotten no phone calls from coaches. There's been nobody complaining about a game. So you're in that sweet spot right now of the season where no one's bothering officials. And so I just want to enjoy that for a minute.
It's like the paradox where I'm sitting right now. It's absolutely perfect. And they're working. They work a lot of scrimmages. These guys work all the time. This time of year, just trying to get better. Schools are doing scrimmages against each other. They're doing scrimmages against other teams. And we're trying to get to see how everybody's working right now. We saw them all last week. As you know, we were down there together. So they're all in good moods.
Yeah.
We'll see. Give them a month.
Yeah, everybody's in a good mood right now, right? So
exactly. Me included.
Yeah.
Me included.
So
I'm excited to get started. So I'm ready for basketball.
And Bryan, you and I have spoken for years, and what I really enjoy is the fact of just a human being that you are, right? I mean, people look at titles, people look at jobs, and they there's a lot of transactional people, right? They're not relationship based, they're transactional. So they come to you when they have a question or they have a demand or they're upset about something, but they don't really get to know the man behind the music, so to speak. I've gotten to know the man behind the music, and you're a proud father, you're a proud grandfather. You are somebody who cares a lot about, God and faith and family values, and you're someone who is who you say you are. You make time for people, you build relationships, and you care about people, and you don't forget about the things that you build. So I want to preface our conversation today by saying thank you for always being good to me, making time for me, and heck, you make me feel like I'm a coach of one of these programs with the amount of time you give me and the fact that you always are willing to sit down or go stand somewhere like we did last week and just talk over, everybody's having lunch and we're just having a conversation, and I always appreciate those.
I don't think people realize how hard you work at those things either. I mean, they don't get to see that, but I mean, we've created a very good relationship, trust factor with each other. We're both extremely similar when it comes to dealing with sports, and especially in the ACC. And you and I think, could sit down for 3 or 4 hours and talk, and it would be all over the place. And I think that comfort level is it's not always out there for either one of us, and I think both of us have it now.
Yeah, I would agree, and that's a very nice compliment, and I send that right back to you times 10. So I appreciate that. I want to, before we get into this season, Bryan, I want to go back to the beginning for you. Like when basketball really started to just be something that you fell in love with, when it just, that call came to you, because there's a moment or moments in our lives. I can go back, if somebody says to me, why broadcasting? I can go back to a bunch of different moments, and I can go back to like my childhood bedroom and tell you I was watching Sports Center and it was my nightlight when I was going to sleep. So how did basketball come into your life?
I mean, it was early. It was very early. My dad was a longtime NBA referee. He was in the ABA back in started in 72. So, I was 10 years old and, going to games, watching the Virginia Squires. Was a ball boy when they played in Hampton. And then as dad progressed, and he started taking me to games and stuff like that as I got older and got into my teens and late teens. Then it clicked when you get in that environment, where you see every emotion that you can see
Yeah.
in a sports arena. And I've said this many times, none of it's scripted. That's the great thing about what we do. Nothing's scripted where, every minute something could change. Look at the football game last night. I mean, that's a prime example. Sports events are amazing. They bring people together. They tear people up. And to be involved in those moments, I think, I refereed my first game when I was in the 10th grade. It was a middle school game. And I fell in love with officiating at that time and, started working high school. I was fortunate enough to live in an area, you had great players, J.R. Reed, Lonzo Mourning, Allen Iverson, Ronald Curry, Tyrod Taylor, all those people played down here, Damon Baycoat. So, being able to work them and I was on the ground floor pretty much of when Boo Williams started his traveling teams, and they were playing outdoors, and, they had games on Fridays and Sundays, and you go out there and it's, 800 people at an outdoor court watching these kids play, and you're involved in that. And I think just the excitement, the emotion, the play. I mean, I just think I just fell in love with it. And, it was never a question of whether or not I grew up an ACC fan. I was never a question of whether or not I was going to an NBA. I had some people that were very dedicated to my father who were NBA supervisors that, brought me to camp to teach me stuff, knowing I was never, going to get hired at that level. But they taught me the game, taught me how to referee the game. The Ed Rushes, the other supervisor, Daryl Garrettson's, those people there just kind of got me, Ronnie Nunn, they got me believing in what I was doing. And then, I started doing college basketball and at an early age. And, like I said, I fell in love with it. You walk on the floor at any of our arenas or any of our domes, and it just lights up. And there's nothing better than standing in front of 20,000 getting ready to throw the ball up. I don't care what anybody says. I miss all of that. I miss that side of the line. I don't miss the other side of the line. Trust me, travel and all that other stuff. But, inside that floor. And the great thing about it is nobody in the outside world bothers you for 2 hours. Not many of us can say that, but, whether you could be having a bad day, you could be having a bad home life day, you could be having a tough day with your kids, but for those 2 hours, it's just you in that game, and I don't think there's much better than that.
You said so much in there that I want to talk about. And one of the things, you said your first game that you were ever a referee was in 10th grade.
10th grade.
And you fell in love with it in 10th grade. And so, to you, as kids are thinking like, man, I want to play and I want to go to college and I want to get a D1 scholarship. You're sitting there in 10th grade going, man, I want to be the official. I want to be the one that decides, was that a foul? Was that offensive or defensive and whatnot? Did you like you said, your dad obviously being connected to it. Did you go to your dad and say like, hey dad, I'm in it. Like, I want to do it. Like, I'm all about this. I think it's awesome that it's 10th grade. And I want to say that because you didn't know this, Bryan, but I knew in 10th grade that I wanted to be a broadcaster.
Oh, that's crazy. That's scary. We have a lot of similarities. But here's the funny part about that game. So the losing coach, the game is played before a Division III game. Back then it was Christopher Newport College. And as we're going out, the losing coach jumps me from behind. Losing coach of the private middle school jumps me from behind, hits me in the back of the head, knocks me down. Of course, they pull him off. It was absolutely crazy. But still, and another thing, Hank Armstrong, who was a longtime NBA referee later on, was working the Division III game there that night. So, again, there was a reason I was in that game because Hank was there, and Hank became a close friend, a mentor, outside of my dad to help me. And, from that point on, it was game on, and that's what I wanted to do.
So you decided the first game that you reffed in 10th grade that you wanted to be a referee, and it was also in that first game that you were attacked by a coach.
Yeah.
That didn't deter you at all?
No, no, not one bit. You know, leading up to that, my dad had me refereeing. Like I would go to, you know, that we back in Newport News where I grew up. You have like Mite League, which is 6 and 7 year olds playing on an 8-foot rim. So every Saturday I would go referee with the rec department games. You know, you probably work 5, 6, and 7 year old games during the day. So I mean, it was. I got jumped as the last coach to hit me. Thank goodness, and I fell in love with it though. I mean, you just do, because as that game kept going, the crazy thing was the students were coming in for the Division III game that was after ours.
Yeah.
So I mean, the crowd just got bigger and bigger and bigger, and I mean, it was great.
Well, and you said I was meant to be there because the D3 game was going on and Hank Armstrong was there and whatnot. I mean, just the fact that I don't call them coincidences, I call them God incidences. Yeah. That like, how does that happen for you? How do I get put in LaGuardia Airport, and of the millions of gates and all the terminals that they have, that I'm on the same flight with Bob Costas and I end up talking with him for 20 minutes. So, you know, so for you with Hank, just what you can say to that moment that like God put you there and was like, you're going to be, because nobody knew who you were going to be. Nobody knew who Hank was going to be, but you had an opportunity to build a friendship just because you had back-to-back games.
It's crazy. I mean, it's just, you know, and both of us have been through ups and downs in what we do, but we've had so many more ups that, you know, we learn from every experience that we're in. And you learn from every. I walk out backwards now looking for the coach to come give me a But yeah, I mean, we just, you know, it's a learning situation that we're in, and you know, we get better every day, and we're still here.
Yeah, you know, and
8th grade was a long time ago for me.
Well, and that's the thing, like you said. I mean, you knew it so young. So when you're going through this, like, did your father say to you, like, hey, yeah, I'm in this, but like, I want you to pave your own way. Like, I want you to find your own relationships, your own connections. Like, how much was Dad involved, and how much did he kind of just hands off say, like, if you want this, Bryan, I want to see you work for it?
Yeah, and he did. I mean, he took his hands off. He helped me referee wise. He didn't know, you know, he knew who Fred Bearcat was. He knew Dan Wardridge. You know, he knew Mickey Crowley, who was then the supervisor of the Atlantic 10 back, you know, when I was in my, you know, 24, 25 years old. And Mickey Crowley was the supervisor of the Atlantic 10 and my dad used to go to Puerto Rico every summer to referee, and Mickey went. So I knew Mickey. So when I went to camps, I had a relationship with Mickey already. He brought me in. Dan Wardridge brought me into back then it was the Colonial, now it's the Coastal. You know, after Rusty Herring had used me for a couple years in Division III stuff here. So, and Rusty Herring ends up being an NBA referee, you know, as well. So, I mean, it's just the path. But Dad took his hands off. He didn't make any calls. You know, they're more at the introductions prior to me deciding that I wanted to do this. And then those guys just kind of paved my way. And then, you know, the other supervisors that came in, Jimmy Sadlin, you know, who works up there at Syracuse, you know, was great to me when he was a supervisor of the Atlantic 10. And you know, it was just, you know, the people that I had in my corner were either great referees or great coaches in the past. And, you know, and then the referees that I refereed with helped me along the way as well, because nobody gets to this point by themselves. And regardless of what anybody says, at the end of the day, you got to get plays right. If you don't get plays right, you're in trouble. So I became a very good play caller just from watching my dad. I became very clock aware of situations, just because if I screw up and the game's on TV and my dad sees it, I'm going to get a phone call afterwards, or I know he's going to watch. Back then it was VHS tape. I'd take him the VHS tape and he'd break it all down. Then became DVDs and he'd watch those. So, you know, I knew what I had coming afterwards. And you know how we are. We never want to let our parents down. So yeah, you have to do what you have to do.
Did you ever bring a tape to your dad thinking, I know I'm going to catch hell for this one?
Oh,
Did you ever hide a tape from your dad?
Nah, because he always asked. He knew my entire schedule, which was crazy. And even if he was gone, like if I get home and he'd be gone for like a week after that with an NBA game, he still knew All right, where's the tapes? And we'd break every game down. And later on, when all the games became, when my career got better, it was fun for the guys I was working with, like Mike Eads or Les Jones or Roger Ayers. We'd be sitting in the locker room after the game wondering about a play, and we'd get a phone call from Dad saying he watched it, and he'd tell you that we got it right or we got it wrong. So I mean, it was fun, and it was expected. Mike Eads and Roger and Les and I would joke about everything. They all had a very good relationship with my dad. He helped them tremendously, and so we got some laughs, and then we got some uh-ohs.
Well, and when you, like you said, you broke down every game that you did with your father, having those moments with your dad, what was there, like, let's break down film and then let's just sit as father and son, or did it just blend together? Like, is your relationship with your father, is it intertwined with basketball, or were there those moments that were like, let's go for a ride or let's go fishing, let's just get away from all this? Were there ever like those getaway moments where your dad would talk with you and build a relationship that went beyond breaking down the film, so to speak?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. When we were done with the film, we didn't even talk about basketball. We talked about everything else. I mean, we did everything, back in the day. I mean, we were extremely close. We played golf. He lived right on the water, so we'd go to the pier. We'd drive his golf cart around the horse barn. We'd go to the pool. My kids would come up. He loved both of my kids. My dad went to every baseball game my son played at Christopher Newport, I think, and he went to every tennis match my daughter played in high school. So, I mean, he was extremely involved. He was extremely involved with me. But when we weren't talking about the film, or we weren't talking about where we were going next or our travel, like summertime, we rarely discussed basketball. We had a tremendous relationship that basketball got involved when it was supposed to, and then when it was gone, we were out of it.
So, if you could sit with Dad right now and you could talk with Jess about anything, like, what would be the thing you would want to sit with him right now and discuss, and where would you want to sit?
One, just keep being the supervisor of this job. No, I'm just kidding. I love what I do. No, if my dad was here now, it would be probably every day he would be with my two granddaughters. Aubrey and Addie would be. He never got to meet them, so I know how involved he was with my kids. So it would probably revolve around them, and then the rest of his life revolved around my son and my daughter. So I mean, it was when he left, there was a huge void, but he taught us everything, and we could talk about anything to him. So, I mean, I would love to talk. I mean, this time of year, I would talk basketball with him. And then, the rest of it, I can guarantee you, he'd be at a 3-year-old T-ball game or a 5-year-old coach pitch game. He'd be at birthday parties for my kids. I mean, it would just be, pandemonium all the time, because he was always one of those people that just was involved in every aspect of what not only my kids did, but what my brother's kids did. When my dad would have loved to have been able to follow Grant. He passed in 2017, but when Grant became a walk-on the Virginia 2019 team, he would have ate that up. He would have been at every game, conference game, non-conference game, just because he even knowing Grant wasn't going to play in the conference games, but he would be at all the games watching that. I mean, that was his life. My niece Madison, my kids Shane and Kristen. So I mean, he was just so involved with those 4 kids that it was almost as if my brother and I were like on the back burner, especially in the summertime. Basketball season, it was me, and then he'd go up there, but to my brother's house. But I mean, he'd just be extremely involved, and it would be great to watch.
And you mentioned your brother Grant, who's up there with your dad as well, and like you said, he would have loved to see him. They were the Virginia Cavaliers. I mean, you're coming from Newport News, Virginia. Your brother gets to go to Virginia to be a walk-on.
No, it's my nephew.
Oh, your nephew, yeah.
Nephew, brother.
So, yeah, so when you talked about, my apologies. So when you talked about your brother that passed.
No.
Or no, your nephew passed.
No. Neither one of them.
Oh, neither one of them.
Neither one of them.
So, okay.
But he would have liked to have been
He would
able
have
to
liked
see
to have
him
been there. So,
walk.
okay.
Yeah, for the national championship game. He'd have been in Minnesota when they won the national
Okay.
championship.
So you're talking about your father being there. Okay.
Correct.
All right. Yeah, I got confused with that. I was like,
That's all right.
yeah. So I mean, I've gone through some passing recently of people that you did not suspect. So I was like, I was hoping that you weren't telling me that news right now.
No.
So when you look to, but the story of Grant being able to go to Virginia and to be there as a walk-on, like you said, what did that do for you? Because you're from Newport News, Virginia, and you get to see him at Virginia. What was that experience like for you to see that?
Oh, it was tremendous. And the great thing was he was a manager for his first 2 years.
Yeah.
And then, so all my referees knew who he was. All my referees talked to him. He's down there. He introduced himself to all of them. So to watch what he did, I don't know if people know this, but he scored like maybe 15 points, never missed a shot, never missed a free throw. He always came in at the end, and he became a phenomenon on their team. During the season, I was there for a game, and I wouldn't go see him in non-conference games, see him play in non-conference games. So I go there for a conference game, and they're winning by like 25 points. And everybody in the arena starts chanting, "We want Kersey, we want Kersey." And I'm like, I got to get out of here quick. Before the opposing coach figures out what they're saying. And I did. And he did not get in the game. But I was so proud. I mean, this kid, Grant, worked so hard. I mean, he busted his butt not only in the classroom, but on the basketball court. And he got everything he deserved because he worked for it. And it was great. It was so much fun to watch.
And I mean, to have that aspect too, just a family connected with basketball. I know you jokingly said, if your father was here, you'd say like, why am I still doing this thing? Because of all the stuff that comes with it. But when you look back on your career and you think all the way back to 10th grade and still doing it now, your father was in the NBA for 33 years, for over 3 decades. And obviously beyond that, was, in the world of officiating. So to see all of the time your dad put in, all the time that you've put in, as you reflect, is it crazy to think that not only have you been an official, but now you're the one that's overseeing these officials inside of the Atlantic Coast Conference? And obviously, there's alliances and different things that go on too with working with other conferences to make sure that there's, obviously the rules are going through correctly and that there's consistency in rules. So, I mean, you went from being an official in 10th grade to working your way up to being an official, being in the NCAA, now a coordinator of men's basketball officiating for an entire conference, which has almost 20 schools now, plus working with other conferences. I mean, did you ever imagine that it would expand to a place where you would be overseeing and supervising other officials when you set out to just be an official yourself?
It's crazy, but as my career went on, my last supervisor was John Clockery, and John Clockery always told me I would be a really good supervisor. Well, once I worked the Final Four in 2015, you start thinking, how much longer am I going to do this? I mean, I was mid 50s, or early 50s, and I was probably going to do it 3 or 4 more years because it just gets to the point where it takes a toll on you. But when they offered me this job, and John Swafford and Paul Brazo talked to me about it, they were so positive and had so much confidence in me, and they just handed the reins to me after John Clockery, who trained me for this spot, got me to this spot. But I took over a conference that had great referees already, and then we added to that. When I got the job, back then I had Roger Ayers, I had Mike Eads, I had Jamie Luckey, I had Bill Covington Jr. And then we pick up Ron Gruber, Lee Cassell, Bert Smith, Tony Henderson, and Tommy Morrissey. And to go with Sean Hull, and you can go down Les Jones, you go down the list. So I was extremely fortunate to have referees that not only want to referee in the ACC, they understood the ACC. They understood my beliefs in the ACC and my feelings in the ACC, which I think, this is, 37th year I've been in the league, affiliated with the league, 27 on the floor, and this is my 10th doing this. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's if you don't like the ACC or don't love the environments of the ACC, there's something wrong. I mean, I've seen the coaches, carousel come through. All the coaches are different, but they're all great. They're incredible people that let me do my job. Now, do they get upset from time to time? Absolutely. Do they have the right to? Absolutely. But to be able to mentor these referees that I have, to have them mentor the next generation that's coming up, we try to pass stuff down to other people, and they've all bought into that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fun to watch. We just got done. We had a leadership meeting in Atlanta about 3 weeks ago in conjunction with the NCAA meeting, and I give them topics, and they have to do PowerPoints and presentations in front of their peers, and to watch these guys lead the others is I don't think people understand what kind of people these guys are, but they're amazing human beings who just want people. They know that they have arrived. I have so many Final Fours, on my staff. They know they've arrived, but they know that they want to leave the game better than it was when they got here, and they're truly examples of that.
Bryan, you talk about bringing these people in, and so many of them, like you said, they've arrived, they've been to the Final Four. How does the ACC go about getting them into their pool? Because I've talked to conferences that struggle with the officials that they have, and they say, like, this is our pool. We know it's not the greatest. This is kind of what we're stuck with, right? So there's conferences that are yearning to have officials come in that call great games, because not everybody is the same, right? And then you talk about the ACC bringing in so many people that have had so much success, that have been at the highest level. How does the ACC recruit, so to speak, or how does this go about? Because I think a lot of people don't know that element of it. Like, conferences getting certain officials, how do they get them within their pool, and how do they make sure that their caliber is strong? How do they know that, it's getting raised from year to year, and that there's a level of positive consistency? So I love to get that kind of behind the curtain, because I've talked to the conferences that are like, man, I wish we had more that we feel comfortable with, we feel like is going to call a good game. But this and I know this, some officials' faces are known because you see them walk through and they're like, oh, okay, well, we know that this is not going to be called fairly, or this isn't going to be, the same on both ends, or it's going to be all over the place. And there's other people see an official walk through the door and say, okay, that we trust this gentleman or this lady is going to do a good job with the game. So how does the ACC go about making sure that they have such a good pool of the caliber that you spoke about?
Well, I think our brand is pretty strong. I mean, I think the ACC brand is very, very strong in college basketball. Great thing is we have this alliance. It has 11 leagues in it, and Johnny Cal, Dwayne Gladden, Mike Stevens, Jack Sweeney do a great job. John Cal and I talk almost every day, especially during the season. We do schedules. We bring people in. We talk with Dwayne and Michael, and Jack do a great job of training the less experienced officials. And then we've added, we have a relationship with 3 Division II leagues. We have a relationship with a couple of Division III leagues. And when Jamie Lucky retired 2 years ago, he came over as our training and development person that takes care of a lot of stuff. So, we clip a lot of plays and we send them out, and he voices over them. Johnny Cal might send him a play and have him voice over that. Mike Stevens might do the same thing. We might send 5 or 6 plays for him to do. So it's a constant training going on for all these people. And we put a lot of responsibility in our veterans. I tell people all the time, I run a camp in July in Rock Hill, South Carolina, and I tell all the people that come to this camp that are trying to get into our system, one, and then referees that are already in our system that want to advance in our system. I tell them all the time, I'm not hiring anybody unless one of my veterans tells me you deserve to be here. And I think that my veterans like that responsibility. I think they work hard at that responsibility.
Yeah.
You know, we don't have a lack of officials coming in. You know, we say we have our next and we have our next already in line, but people break through those barriers, you know, all the time. You know, but when you can go work a game in the MAC, or you can go work a game in the Patriot or the Ivy or the Northeast, or even the Northeast 10, the Division II League, or the JUCO Region 10 down south, or the Coastal, or the A10's hard. You know, if you can get to that level, we can move people up step by step. And,
Yeah.
you know, by the time they get here, you know, we tell them all the time there's a difference in walking through a tunnel and there's a difference in walking through a hallway to get to the arena. And I think they embrace that, where they want to get to the tunnel part, where they're walking through and you see fans sitting out there, and I think it makes them better.
Bryan Kersey here with us on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside the Great Lakes Honda City studios. And, of course, the ACC supervisor of men's basketball officiating as we head into the 2025-26 season. You mentioned the Northeast Conference, and you also mentioned the NE10. I've done work with both. And I know that the NE10, not just in basketball, but in general in Division II, has a lot of competition. And they've sent a lot of their schools from Division II into Division I, especially in recent history. So you made mention of, hey, if you come up, you coach a North, or you're an official at a Northeast game or an NE10 game, like we can move you up. You specifically mentioned those two conferences, and I've worked with them both. So I'd love to get your thoughts on the caliber of the Northeast as well as the NE10 when it comes to Division II and what you've seen from them since you mentioned them.
I think those games make our referees better. You know, coaches are energetic. Northeast 10, anything can all. I learned how to referee in Division II basketball. I mean, I was in the CIAA coming up. Northeast 10 is extremely competitive, and John Gaffney is the supervisor there, and he does a tremendous job of training his officials. And the good thing is they are in our alliance, and they get the same training that people in the ACC, the Big East, Atlantic 10, the Coastal, Big South, everybody gets. They see all of those plays, and we show their plays, which I think makes them feel a part of us, which they are, and they can move through the ranks. Jack Sweeney does a tremendous job with the Northeast Conference. He's been there forever. He's going to retire at the end of this year, and he will be extremely, extremely missed. But it's a situation where we can really help these less experienced officials that most of them don't even shave yet, you know, to get them to a position where, you know, they see a light that they can get to if they can attain it. And some people want to be lifetime referees at that level, and that's perfectly fine. We need everybody. And I just think that keeping them involved with the veterans makes them feel needed, wanted, gives them a reason to get out there and to try and get better. And I think it's helped us tremendously. I know it's helped the ACC, the Big East, Atlantic 10 tremendously.
Yeah, and you talked about these, you know, working with 11 other conferences. You spoke about this alliance. For those that don't know, what is this alliance? Because I want to make sure that we share for people that may not know of the connections of conferences.
Well, we have an alliance that's made up of the ACC, the Big East. John Cal and I work hand in hand in all of this. It includes the Atlantic 10, the Coastal, the Big South, the Patriot, the Ivy, the Northeast Conference, the America East Conference, the Northeast 10, and we also include with our training the JUCO Region 10, the SAC Division II League in North Carolina, the Conference Carolinas, which Joe Forte, a former NBA referee, is the supervisor down there and is a tremendous, tremendous teacher. And we also have the USA South that we do training stuff with. So, I mean, it's the ODAC, which is another Division III league, which is a tremendous Division III league here in Virginia and North Carolina and Tennessee. So it gives us a funnel, and I think we need a funnel.
Yeah.
And I think it gives us a referees a ladder that they can climb, and it's a training, and I could have a problem. Last year, the last Saturday of the season, we had somebody have a baby the night before the last Saturday, and B have a traveling issue getting to a game, and we had to go. Last day of the season, everybody in the country's playing. We had to go to people that are not on the rosters where they ended up working. They were in the leagues below, but they had been trained for that situation. We put them in those situations. They both did great. One of them was NC State Miami, down in Miami, which ended up being a basket with second left to win the game. And the guy did a tremendous job, but there was nothing we could do. But the people that were trained in our system were ready for that moment, and they took advantage of it.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, having that pool, having that opportunity to work amongst the conferences and not just the ACC. I do want to ask you this because I grew up a Big East kid, and you and I have talked about a lot of different things. So I want you to follow me on this one because this was interesting for me. So in the Big East, it used to feel like a football game, right? So when I spoke with Otis Hill about Syracuse playing Georgetown when he was there, he said it was a football game, like plain and simple. That's how they felt. That's how they were. Big East, very, very physical. So a few years back, and I think it was coming out of like COVID time. So I think it was 2021 when the ACC tournament was in Brooklyn at the Barclays. And then, of course, the Big East was at Madison Square Garden. I was covering both. So I'm at the ACC, and then I'm going over to the Big East. Well, I've said these parallels between the two of them. So I was watching an ACC game, and you see a pinky kind of graze the side of somebody's arm, foul. And then I go to the Big East at the Garden, and I'm seeing UConn bang body nothing. The third time that they hit underneath, they called a foul, and I kind of took a breath and said, okay, like that physicality is still in the Big East. We still get to see it. With you working with the Big East so closely, sometimes I see the Big East they get to play a little bit more, be a little more physical, and I don't always see it in the ACC. When I see moments like that, or I see things like that, how do you navigate through those? Because, you've been around basketball forever, so I'm sure you love the physicality, but we've also seen that, sometimes fouls are called where it's really hard for a guy underneath, especially a center who's like 7 foot, to do anything and block shots because that pinky graze or that tap could be called on them. So I saw the juxtaposition of like, this was called in the ACC tournament, this wasn't called in the Big East tournament. How do you navigate through that? Because it's not me knocking anything. I'm just really trying to tell you, Bryan, that I love physical basketball. So I'd love to get your thoughts on it.
Yeah. Well, number one, Otis Hill was huge. Otis Hill was a very big player, very strong player. He could probably have played football.
Yeah.
In his day, imagine him with pads and a helmet on.
I'm saying.
So, the great thing is the people that referee in the Big East and the ACC flip-flop leagues.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. I refereed in the Big East through John Thompson and Jim Calhoun and those days, and was it more physical? Yeah, but I think that the players at that time were different athletes than that were in the ACC. Not that they were not athletic in the ACC, because they were, but I think they had more bangers than what we had. At that time we didn't have an Otis Hill.
Yeah.
You think about it. You can go back in years, and there's not many Otis Hills that came through the ACC. So I don't know I think it appears rougher because you have big bodies that are legally banging against each other, in my opinion. Were we a finesse league in the ACC for a little while? Probably so. But I think that's all kind of changed, and we've moved forward. But like I said, it's the same referees in each league every night. They're just going back, Jim Burr and Tim Higgins and Bob Donato and Eddie Corbin. And, I think Johnny Cow's top 5 of all time to ever blow the whistle. And, they taught us how to referee not only in the Big East but in the ACC, and it's all kind of panned out.
So let me ask you this then: for all the years that you've spent, and for the decades that you have been officiating or supervising officials, do you feel, because some people feel that the NCAA wanted more scoring, so, more things become a foul, or it becomes easier to get an offensive player to the line. It becomes harder to defend. Some people have looked at some of these rules and things have changed. And I played basketball growing up, and I still, will get out on a court, and it's one of the places where I could shut my brain off. I love the sport. It's like a musical instrument to me that I just got to pick up and play from time to time. So can you be as physical? Do you feel like when you watch the game now that you can defend the way you want to defend, or do you feel like we've tailored it so much towards scoring and having higher scores that it's hard to do it? Like, how have you seen a change over the years in what's happening and the rules that are there? Because I know there's a lot of opinions, but you're dealing with this on a day-to-day level, and you're the one that's been officiating forever, so you would know it better than most.
I think this is what I would say, and this is what I've visited some schools and talked at different levels. I've done a lot of talking to coaches and stuff like that. I think our game is too rough. I think there's a difference in physicality and rough play. And I'm not saying our game is too rough in the paint, because I think the paint is going to be what the paint is going to be. But I think that guards are not allowed to, up till now, are not allowed to start a play. And what I mean by that is I think defenders try to slow them down.
Yeah. Because
then it breaks the timing of the entire play. So I think between the circles, top of the key to the jump circle, and wing side drives or wing side, heading to the basket, I think the guards put hands, bodies, bump people off their path, all of that to start those plays. And I think we have to take that out, because I think, like I said, I think it messes up the timing of our plays. And I think coaches want that. Like I said, the post is going to be the post. One of the stats that teams use, almost all of our teams use now, are paint touches. How many times have we touched the paint? Because our game has turned into get in the paint and shoot a floater, get in the paint and throw a lob, or get in the paint and dish it out for a three. And then anything that comes after that is grading. So I think that when we go to the wing and the guy starts to make a drive to get to the paint and he gets impeded in his path, then I think we have to call those fouls. And I think our guys are going to buy into that. We talked about it at the NCAA clinics. We've talked about it in our individual officiating meetings. We've talked about it when I've gone to scrimmages. And I think that physical part of it, that rough part of it, once it goes from physical to rough, I think you can go body to body as long as you get in, and beat the offensive player to their spot. I don't think we can allow them to keep taking a hand and chucking them or anything like that.
Yeah, you talk about that from the defensive side, right? To not impede them offensively, and I watch the game closely because, like I said, I love this game. When there's been certain plays and certain things that have happened in the tournament where you'll see an offensive player who's dribbling the ball try and get spacing themselves, so they might try to, take that elbow up, or try to, they're trying to create the space with one arm while they're dribbling with the other hand. What are your thoughts on that? Because there's that, like, I know you said defensively you don't want to see somebody impeded that's an offensive player, but when an offensive player is trying to get a defensive player off of them and they use a sense of, like you said, there's a difference between being physical or being rough. Where do you see the distinction of the player with the ball when it comes to they're just being physical or they're being rough?
Well, I was taught when I was coming up to referee the defense. I think we got away from that for probably the last 5 or 6 years. I think last year, probably mid-January to the end of the year, I know in the ACC we started preaching that. We preach a couple of things. We preach team officiating, and we preach refereeing the defense. And I think if we referee the defense, we're going to see who ends up causing the contact. Because if you look at the defensive player, he's going to dictate where the offensive player is going. But if the offensive player pushes off, I think, and extends the arm, the plays that you're talking about, I think we'll start to get them. We started getting them last year, end of January through February, and I think it helped our our game. And I think throughout the summer we preached it, throughout the preseason we've preached it, and I think we're going to get better at not penalizing legal defenders, who beat them to the spot and they get, advantage, disadvantage has to come back into it. And if the defender gets put at a disadvantage, we've got to call the foul on the offensive play.
And I can I can appreciate that because, like you said, you got away from refereeing the defense, and if you referee the defense, you're going to be watching to see, and like you said, you're looking for the extent. You're looking for the extension. Now, there has been some NCAA tournament games, like you said. You have a bunch of officials that have been at Final Fours. You've been at Final Fours. I've seen within these last few years, and I go back to I think it was the Creighton San Diego State game where they had an out of bounds play, and they had an offensive player roll off, and they go up for the shot. And as they're going up for the shot, they get the shot off. Person's trying to defend the shot. It didn't look like there was rough contact. It kind of just looked like the person was going, and then the person that was shooting kind of leaned a little bit. We're talking about, I think it was like 0.8 seconds or something like that. How difficult when you're coaching these officials, and like you said, when you have these camps and whatnot, when you're speaking with them, there's going to be moments where the game is tied or it's one possession, and it's, do you call the foul? Do you not call the foul? You know those moments, right? Those heart-stopping moments, those, I better get this thing right. How do you coach them through those moments where in a game like that, it decided who went to the Final Four? I mean, there's games that are going to come down to there is less than 2 seconds to play. Was it a foul on the offense? Was it a foul on the defense? Was it nothing? How do you coach through that? Because those plays will happen, and those are the plays where people really look to the officials and say, like, hey, if you call this and we're up by 1, our team might lose this game, or if you don't call this, and it was a foul, we have the right to be at the line. I mean, those have to be the toughest calls that you call when you were on the floor or when you're supervising looking at this. So how do you coach through that, and how do you teach those moments that make your heart stop?
Well, these referees know 2 things. One, don't do anything that's going to cause me to get a phone call. And 2, don't do anything that's going to cause me to call you. The worst thing that can happen is me call the locker room and say, hey, can you put me on speaker? No, but seriously, we do a lot of, and the great thing is our coaches do this in the preseason. They run a lot of situational plays. We might play a 10-minute quarter and then run a 50-second situation. So our guys are trained in how to do this. And again, we've got to get back to advantage, disadvantage. People say that our foul call decided the game, where our non-foul call can decide a game too. And, one of the rules that we use in the game, a defender jumps A to B and causes contact, it has to be a foul on a shooter. And I think if the fans understand that, I think it makes sense. They can jump A to A. They can block the ball from behind. But if you go to the side of a guy and you jump A to B trying to block it and you bump him, again, he's in the air, bumps him off his path, then, it should be a foul call. Just because it's the end of the game doesn't mean, because I have to be able to explain it to a coach. If a coach calls me after the game and says, why wasn't that a foul? It's hard for me to say, Coach, I don't know.
Yeah.
So I have to be completely upfront with them, and I tell my referees, if I think you missed it, and the coach calls, I'm going to tell the coach you missed it. And they understand that. But, again, we go back to team officiating where we've got 3 guys out there, and the end of the game, you're going to have 4 eyes on the ball. You're going to have another guy watching everything off of it. And I'll take our numbers on those plays above anybody. And I think Mike Eads would do the same with his SEC guys. I think John Higgins would do the same with his Big 12 guys and all the leagues that they see, because I think we prepare them for that. And we make them unafraid to blow the whistle at that point and be right. I mean, last year in the ACC tournament, we had a whistle blown in a game at the end that was wrong.
Yeah.
And it decided the game. And I think we have to own that and let them know we're wrong. But then again, we also have to let them know that, if we think we're right, we're correct. And I'll let them know that. Coaches are great when we talk about that, but they also know that I'm going to admit when we're wrong.
And there was, like you said, I mean, in those moments, and I think it's also important too, like if there's 10 minutes left, for example, in the first half of a game, and there's a foul called there that was the same foul called with 0.8 seconds ago in the second half, that you can go back to it and say, hey, a foul's a foul. Whether we're early in the game and it's 7-5 and we're at the end of the game and it's 1 point of separation, because the consistency of if something's a foul at some point, it has to be a foul then, because you don't want people to swallow their whistle just because it's the end of the game.
Correct.
I do want to get to a couple more things, and I know you spent good time with us, Bryan, but how, when you say like, the officials that are there, the three of them get to talk within the game and to make a decision. We know that when we're watching college football, right, the officials can look at it and then they can send it, right? They can send it to the ACC office, and there's that conversation back and forth. In the world of college basketball, during a game in real time, can they send it to you to review it, to go back to them? Is there anything for that? Because I know there's different initiatives and there's things that are going on and there's rules that are being changed over the years. Is there an opportunity in the ACC during a game? Syracuse is playing Pitt. There's 5 minutes left in the second half. Can I send it to Bryan Kersey to check the call and to send it back to me?
No, we do not have collaborative replay like they do in football.
Yeah.
And the NBA has a replay center where they talk to them and they figure it out. We do not.
Right.
We put number one, the system that we use that the ACC provides for our officials and our schools is top notch. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, if you were to look at it to 8 angles, you see what TV's getting shown. You have a big screen. And we put the trust in the officials that are on the floor that know what's going on in the game, know what they're looking for at that time. I sit here, I don't know if people know this, I have 8 TVs right here in the office that I'm sitting in. And I watch every single game that we have. And sometimes I'm sitting on the edge of the seat hoping that they come out of there with the right answer. And sometimes they don't. Sometimes I can see what angles they're looking at, but I can't give them any feedback whatsoever.
Since we
Until after the game, of course.
Right. And so I asked that question because they can do that in college football. So do you feel like there should be a kind of blanket policy of, if we have it in college for one sport, we have it for all? Would you like that they can send it to you for your review of it during the game? I mean, if the ACC is doing it for college football, and then should we live in a world where the ACC can do it for college basketball? And I bring up the ACC because you work at the ACC, but really any conference. If college football has it, then should college basketball have the right to send it to the headquarters?
I don't think so. I think our game is extremely fast-paced. I think our game, I have to trust my referees.
Yeah.
And I do. And I'm not saying football does not. I'm just saying that's a bigger stage. Football is its own entity, I think.
Yeah.
And, there's a lot of things. That's a 100-yard field by a 50-yard field, I think is what theirs is. And I just think that the space that they have, and, they don't have – we have a huge screen. I think it helps them to slow down. I think our referees have gotten them right more times than they've gotten them wrong. Will we ever have collaborative replay? I don't know. That's not my decision to make. That goes to Jim Phillips, as the commissioner of the league. But, I also like the human factor still being here. I still like our referees to feel, hey, this is your game. Yeah. You run this game. Our crew chiefs are extremely, extremely proud that they can run a game in the ACC. And I think for right now, I think that's what we need to stick with.
So at the ACC tip-off, here with Bryan Kersey, ACC supervisor of men's basketball officiating, 2025-26 season. We're on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. You had an opportunity to break in between that final day. And so there was a bunch of men's basketball schools, and then we had an officiating opportunity, and then back to men's basketball institutions to do those interviews. What did you want to get across? I don't think you had enough time. I'll say that much. I feel like, because I remember in the past, whether it was football or basketball, like, you get an hour, get an hour and a half. I think with the ACC kickoff, they used to allow, if you came to the officiating kind of workshop, I'll call it, for football, I mean, we had like an hour, hour and a half, and they would stay as long as you wanted to talk about things. So you were kind of breaking up the last day. What did you want to get across? Because you and I talked about it before you went into the kind of shortened version of a workshop. What were you hoping to speak about, and what did you get from the ACC tip-off?
Well, I think that, coaches' challenges are new this year.
Yeah.
And, for fans that don't understand, the players do this all the time on every single play, and I'm trying to get them to stop doing that. But they can challenge basket interference, goaltending, they can challenge restricted area plays, and they can challenge out-of-bounds plays. And I think out-of-bounds plays are the hardest plays that we have.
Yeah.
Because the kids are so fast, the balls just shoot out of bounds. So, in the past, we've used replay as a crutch. And I wanted the media to understand what we can and cannot look for. Now, we're still going to go look at flagrant fouls. We're still going to go look at contact dead ball, scoring plays, whether they're twos or threes. We still can go look at those at any time. But we can go look at a scoring play and see a foul, or see an out of bounds, or go look at a flagrant or timing issue and see that we missed a foul, or see that the ball went out of bounds off of somebody, and we can't change that without a challenge. So I just wanted to get the coach's challenge out there. I think it's the start of a very good thing. It will speed the game up, but we will have plays during the season where a coach is not going to have a challenge, and we're going to have an out-of-bounds play that the officials miss, and they can't go look at. And I want people to understand that, just because we're over there looking at a timing problem, that we can't change the out-of-bounds play without a challenge. And I think, like I said, I think we're at a great spot. I think the Rules Committee, and I said this to the media there, I think the Rules Committee did a great job with the challenge and the rule changes with stuff that we're doing. And I think it'll only get expanded in 2 years. I think we'll ever get to the point where we're challenging foul calls? I hope not. Mm-hmm. I think we may have proximity fouls on out-of-bounds plays, that we miss, that we can go back and get. But as for, changing a jump shooter where we don't call a foul, or we call a foul and he doesn't get touched, I don't want to have to go review that.
No, because the game will be 6 hours. But so this coach's challenge in the out-of-bounds, you and I were talking about it off the air, and we talked about the concerns of it, right? Because what if there's 7 out-of-bounds plays in the last 5 minutes, right? I mean, you really have, and you said you trust your officials, but you really, really have to. I mean, this comes down to the ACC and your joint alliance of these officials that are going through all these conferences that you spoke with me about, including the Big East and the A-10 and whatnot. I mean, you really have to trust, because I'm going to imagine that you're going to get a lot of phone calls this year of coaches that ran out of challenges, and there's 2 minutes left, or a minute left, or 37 seconds left, and there was an out-of-bounds play, and no matter how many times we look at it and we see it at home or we see it on the screen at the game, they can't do anything about it. So, I mean, this really comes down to trusting the caliber of official that you have in the ACC, because, like I said, Bryan, I think your phone's going to be ringing this year.
Oh, there's no doubt. I mean, and I've told the coaches that. I've told them there's going to be plays missed. I've told them in every league that we have, we're going to miss out-of-bounds plays. You're not going to have a challenge. Then, but, again, we did a whole segment, probably an hour segment, on out-of-bounds coverages at our meetings. Jamie Lucky did a tremendous job with this. And again, I reiterate the team officiating, concept that we're using and we've used for years, but now it's gotten even better. You cannot, a less experienced official like Jamel Spearman can't be afraid to go to Roger Ayers and say, "Hey, Roger, that ball went off of blue. You said it was blue's ball." He can't. If he knows, he's got to be able to go in there and give him the information, because he can save the crew, or he can go in the locker room and say, I should have come. Can't be any should haves anymore. At the end of a game, I tell him, when you leave the floor, have no doubt that you don't want to have it. You don't want to wish you had a do-over. Have no regrets when you leave the floor, and I think we got it through to him. Last year in the SEC tournament, I told Mike Eaton this a lot of times, and I use this example on our coordinator's call. There were 2 plays in one of their semifinal games of out-of-bounds plays that they reviewed and overturned. This year, you might not have that luxury to get that second one right. So you might not have that luxury to get that first one right. So we have to do better. And like I said, out-of-bounds plays, in my opinion, are the hardest plays that we have.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. I mean, once it's called, if a coach doesn't challenge it, once that crew comes together and says this is what it is there, I mean, can they come together and say, we want to go look at it on the screen, or no? Like they're just calling it and that's it?
At no time during the game can you review an out-of-bounds play without a challenge.
Without a challenge, and a coach gets one challenge.
It's one challenge, and if he's right, he gets another one.
So
he can get maximum of 2.
So
he can't get more than 2.
So at best, if I'm a coach, I can ask them to go look at the replay for 2 out-of-bounds plays.
Correct, at best.
At best. And so they're not looking at this anymore. This is going to make the game faster for sure, but this is crazy, because you're at games where they're sitting looking at the monitor for 5 minutes, and that's not going to happen anymore. So you really, there's a whole lot of trust on it. Like you said, guys speaking up, and men and women speaking up, that if you have an official who is a newbie, so to speak, and you got somebody that's been doing it for 12 years, that you're telling them, have the confidence to walk up there and say, like, hey, I know I'm the new voice on the court, but I know that went off a green. You need to call that. So
100%. Now, the last 2 minutes, we can look at basket interference, goaltending, and restricted area plays. And restricted area plays, of course, when secondary defenders are in the restricted area, and we call it a charge, and then we can go review to see if his feet are in the restricted area on secondary defenders. But we cannot at any time during the game go look at out-of-bounds plays without a challenge.
This is going to be nuts.
Starting November 3rd.
It's going to be crazy. Yeah. Coming to a theater near you. But
100%. It's going to go from G to R real quick.
Oh, it is. It is. Enjoy this time, Bryan. But
that's right.
You've been so great about answering my questions. I want to do a little bit of rapid fire with you. We're going to go back and forth. You get 3 questions. I get 3. You can ask the first one. Any topic, doesn't have to be basketball. Throw whatever question you got at me, but you get to start it. What do you got?
Best venue you've ever been in to witness a college basketball game?
Oh my goodness. So that's tough. So I will say this: when I'm at the NBA venues and I'm at the NCAA tournament, right, and they talk about, oh, you know, congratulations, you're part of a sellout crowd of 19,781, and I'm like, that's what Syracuse got on a slow day. So I would say it's got to be a tie between Madison Square Garden and the Dome, because the Dome can get almost 40,000 people for a basketball game, but there's nothing like Madison Square Garden. So I look up at God when I'm sitting in the Dome, and I look up at him and I'm like, dude, you spoiled me. You gave me the best venue and you put it in my hometown. So I'd probably say the Garden or the Dome.
Yeah, good answer.
My question back to you, Coach. So going back to when you were an official on the floor, I want you to name the coach that got in your face the most, that you can go back to, that you thought that you either called a technical on, or that you thought to yourself, like, man, this guy's pushing me. Like, go back to that time, because I've had officials name, and I'm not going to name who they were, but I've had officials tell me, like, hey, there was this one time. Do you have a time you can go back to where one of the coaches was just being a lot?
Yeah. I've had a lot of them. You know, probably the best one that I had that I learned from was when Paul Westhead was at George Mason.
Okay.
And they were back in the CAA when, had a lot of packed arenas and stuff like that. He came at me hard, extremely hard. And, but it taught me how to not deal with, but to communicate with coaches a whole lot better. It was a great learning experience. It taught me how to communicate with the Jim Calhoun's and the Mike Krzyzewski's and the Rick Pitino's and the Gary Williams's. Gary Williams to me was a hard coach to referee too, because he would be up and down the sidelines the whole time while he's yelling at me or his assistants or whatever it was. But at the end of the day, Gary Williams was like, thanks, I'll see you next time. And, Skip Prosser, I mean, there's so many I could name. Skip Prosser was hard, but Skip Prosser was fair. I go back to the Cincinnati Gardens with having them and GW when Mike Jarvis was at GW, when Skip was at Xavier. And, those games where coaches just come at you the whole time, prepare you for anything that can go on later on. So, I mean, it's there's so many people that create our paths, I guess is probably the way to put it, that get you prepared for the next turn. And, you sit here and you think about that question, and then another coach will pop in your head, and then another coach will find Paul Hewitt. You can just keep going as to coaches and then you have the Tony Bennett's and the Mike Youngs and people like that they just say things quietly. But I mean, it's crazy the people that pave your path to make you better. And we had a lot of coaches to make us better.
So I guess my 1B to that, if I can, is when is it, like you said, because they challenge you, right? So when is it that it's like, this is their personality, this is who they are, and I need to be confident? When does it cross the line? Because I've spoken with other officials of like, when is it, like, if someone's going to be very vocal with you as an official, when does it come to the point of like, this person's yelling the whole game, so like, obviously I'm not going to call 100 technicals on this person. I mean, they're yelling the whole time. When does the yelling and the loudness and the running up and down the floor, when is it just them? And when is it, okay, I'm Bryan Kersey, I'm an official, I have to call a technical, or I have to give a warning, or I have to do something? When did you kind of make that differentiation?
Once it gets personal. Sometimes it gets personal. And I don't think coaches mean everything they say when it gets personal. It could be a thing directly towards me. It's not even talking about the play that happened. And once it gets personal, then it becomes technical fouls. And sometimes it gets personal because they want the technical foul then. Sometimes it gets personal just because they don't realize it just got personal. And then a lot of times it'll stop. I had the Tim Floyd game at East Carolina, where he went after another official, that I was working with. And it got personal really quick after he got his first one. And then shortly thereafter, he got his second one. But I really think coaches get so involved in the game that they don't realize when they cross the line. But there are coaches, and the great ones, the Hall of Famers, know when they cross the line. Jim Boeheim knew when he was going to go over the line. And then Jim Boeheim stopped. I mean, he was, Rick Pitino, same way. Mike Krzyzewski, same way. You can go all these Hall of Fame guys. And, they know exactly what they're doing. And then they just let it go. And, that's what makes it so much fun to do this. Because, 10 years later, I could have teed Mike Krzyzewski, I could have teed Rick Pitino, I could have teed Gary Williams or any of those in my past. But if we ran into each other right now, we would all have very good conversations. And, again, it weaves your path. It's like the yellow brick road. You just keep going. As long as that road stays there, you're good.
Yeah. I can appreciate that. What's your second question for me, Brian?
Best person the greatest person you've been able to sit down with and interview besides me.
Well, Brian, you know, you know that I see this, but yeah, I mean, I know you say that, joking, but the reality of it all is I can remember conversations with you.
Yeah.
Like I can remember where I am. I remember I was at the Hotel Syracuse in the VIP lounge sitting in a chair with you. So I can't say that about, we've interviewed, I lost track after I hit 5,000 guests on Wake Up Call. But can I tell you where I was with all of them and around the ballpark time of that and all, and the weather that was outside? I mean, so I think it speaks to you and our relationship that I can remember more vividly our conversation. But, I would say, man, I mean, it's tough. I'm going to stay with basketball because we're talking about men's basketball. I would say my conversations with Jim Boeheim, because I've had a lot of one-on-ones with him, and I don't think a lot of people get that opportunity. You have too? Good. Good to know, Brian. Good to know.
That's right. That's right.
But
he's still Hall of Fame. Which is tremendous.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would say I've had 2 conversations with him in his office, and I think it was like 20 minutes and 15 minutes. And I say that because, coaches have joked with me. Adrian Autry, who's the head coach of Syracuse now, he goes, how do you get 20 minutes with Boeheim? He goes, I don't get 20 minutes with Boeheim. And my office is right next door. So I would say I remember being on the court with him at Media Day, getting one-on-ones. I remember being him coming off a golf course and talking to him in the parking lot. And I remember in his office, probably the one that's most vivid is the one in his office. Like, this is the first time I got to talk with him in his office at the Mello Center, and he was sitting behind his desk. I said, can I bring this chair from in front of his desk to the other side? He said, sure. And I had my recorder, and we did an audio recording, and I finished the interview, and I turned the recorder off. To this day, I'm like, man, I wish I left it running, but I'm an honest person in the media. So I told him we were done. I shut it off. And as I was putting my chair back, he looked at the ground and he goes, good. He goes, it's a good interview. Good questions. And I thought to myself, holy crap. Like, he doesn't say that. Yeah. And normally Jim's deal with the media is, let me get in, let me do what I got to do and get out of here. But he never yelled at me. I think the worst thing he ever said to me was, do I have to repeat myself? And to be honest, I didn't think in that Big East tournament, I think it was a Big East tournament game, I didn't think he was repeating himself. So we might have disagreed there. But him and I always had, I think, a respectful relationship. And I saw him at the TBT a couple months ago in Syracuse, and I went over to him and I shook his hand. And Jim is the type of guy where if he doesn't want to talk to you, he won't. And, he shook my hand. He said, good to see you. And I'm close with Buddy, very close with Buddy. And, I've been building my relationship with Jimmy because I've just known Buddy longer. But, I would probably say being in Jim's office, knowing how rare that is, and then him saying that it was a good interview.
My first year in the league, I went up there to the Mello Center. I'd never been there. And he invited me in. I was going to watch practice.
Yeah.
And I sat in his office. He sat there and talked to me for half an hour. And, it was great for me. It was my first year. First season had not even started yet.
Yeah.
And he was great. He was tremendous. I loved refereeing for him. There's not a lot of places that were, when Duke came into the Dome back then, those games, they're trying to set the 35,000 person.
Yeah.
And it was great.
No, yeah, and I'm happy that you got that time. You said you talked to him a lot. In that 30-minute conversation, your first trip to Mello, what do you remember of that? I guess would be my question back to you.
His opinions on how the game should be refereed.
I didn't know if in the half an hour it was like two men talking.
All the mistakes I made over the years refereeing his game. No, he was he was great. I mean, he talked about his team. You know, he told me, you know, referees do this. I don't think they should do that, you know, in his own words. You know how his words are. But, you know, he smiles a lot and looks at you, gets upset, you know, when he talks about, you know, I remember 10 years ago you had me here and did this, and we end up laughing over it.
Yeah.
You know, he was glad I was, you know, you know, one of the greatest compliments I received when I did go into being a coordinator was, you know, why are all the good referees coming off the floor and becoming coordinators? You know, and I thought that was as good a compliment as I could get, and Coach Bo gave me that, and you know, it's because Curtis Shaw had come off, you know, him and Curtis worked a lot of games together, and I came off. Mark Whitehead came off at the time, and so that's about as good a compliment as I could get.
Did you ever tee him up?
I don't think I did. Yes, I did. In a Big East game before they came to the ACC, I did tee him. And I don't know if you realize this, but it was in the first half of the game, and the tunnel that we go down to our locker room goes right past the Syracuse locker room. So when I'm walking, you know, I said there's a difference in walking through a tunnel and walking through a hallway. Well, I got to walk through this tunnel, and he's standing in the hallway. So he had a couple words for me going by, but again, we come out for the second half and we moved on. So I mean, it was great.
Yeah. All right. Good to know. What's your last question for me, Bryan?
Last question is, what are you doing after this? What's next? What's the next chapter for you?
Oh man. Well, you know, there's a lot of things that I'm working on. I actually just did a segment today about don't just talk about it, be about it. And so, you know, there's some things that everything that I do is storytelling. And I'm very passionate about building Superpowered Pop, which is my entertainment show. And we got to interview some actors when I was out at New York Comic-Con right after I left ACC tip-off. And so I want to expand that. I want to reach more people, build more bonds and relationships there like we've done with Wake Up Call. And I want to work on a few screenwriting projects that I have and I've been really passionate about, and I need to do it because I love telling stories, and the 5-year-old in me is yearning for me to challenge myself in that world. So I'm probably I'm gonna do something in the storytelling world, and I think having more interviews with actors and actresses and writers and illustrators, and making sure I'm, you know, continuing the bonds that I created there, because I've done so much work with Wake Up Call, and I thank God for that.
Right.
I want to make sure I'm taking care of some other things that I'm doing, and you know, I think just the storytelling side of it. I have ideas in screenwriting, and I've sat in movies and been like, I thought of that. I've listened to songs and said like I had those lyrics, or I had that piano and guitar. And so to me, you know, it's okay. Well, if you created that a year before it came out, what did you do with it? So I think I need to push myself a little bit more. My parents are going to ask me, what hours do I have in the day to do that? But, you know, I definitely think that there's some things I want to do before God takes me home, and I'd like to think I'm just getting started. So I would say I need to work on some things that I've been talking about.
Good for you.
My question back to you, Bryan, and I'm going to ask you to go to that world with me. So you're going to be my screenwriter, okay? You need to create a film that features you and I. What is the film going to be about? What is your job? What is my job? And why should people go see it?
Wow. I'm telling you, I think our film together would be all over the place. I think it would be experiences from your side and include experiences from my side, meaning your experience dealing with everybody that's out there and my experience with on-court dealings. I think it, you know, they always used to say, I was a big Seinfeld guy, and they presented the thing and said the film's going to be about absolutely nothing. But I think real life is something, and I think you and I have experiences, whether or not it's our backgrounds before we got into this. You flying on the plane with Bob Costas, or me, having the game with Hank Armstrong and where it takes off to. I think that it would create a lot of hope. I think our relationships, not only together but our family relationships. I don't think people realize that people can still be married for 41 years, like I am. And I don't think people can have. When I turned 61 years old a couple years ago, my son is really big into F3, and F3 is a men's workout thing. It's fitness, fellowship, and faith, and it's not a religious organization, but it's a belief in something. You're planning for something in your future. You end in a circle of trust with prayer. But he gave me a cinder block and a 20-pound weighted vest. I don't know if he was trying to tell me I was fat or if he wanted me to live a long time.
Yeah.
Come to find out that these F3, that's what they do. So I think that the people, and I say that to say this, it surrounded me with different people. Mm-hmm. Not that the people I'm surrounded with, I still hang out with all them, but it broadens everything. You've had the exact same thing happen in your world. And I don't know if people have those experiences. I think people that live the lives that we live, you don't know what the next page is going to turn. And I think that's great. I think it's tremendous. I think we know what path we're on, but I think having everyday experiences that we have, not only in the sports world, but in the real world, in my insurance world, and the supervisor world, and my family world, and my F3 world, and my golf world, all of that, same with you. I think that adds to people, and it says, hey, you know what? Ordinary people aren't bad. I think you can live, and I think, like I said, I think our experiences that we've experienced to this point that have gotten us here, that have prepared us for this, are people that everybody wants. I say all the time, somebody has to be me. I say it all the time. Somebody has to be me. And I don't know if there's a lot of people out there that can say that. And I think there's some. Trust me, I think people have a better life. I'm sorry. I think people think they have a better life than me and a better life than you. I don't think either one of us would agree with that.
Yeah. No. And I never have the same day twice. You don't either.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think there's a lot of opinion. I say this kind of going off of what you said, Bryan, and I love what you said. And I always tell people, I say, and I know that there's something that's the same theme of this, the man in the arena. And it's something that I've always said. I said, picture life like it's a stadium. And there's 50,000 seats or 70,000 seats, however many you want to have. But let's say, we're in a basketball arena, right? Because we're talking about basketball. And there's 20,000 seats in this arena.
Yeah.
There's 10 people on the floor.
Yeah.
But there's 20,000 people in the arena, and there's 1.5 million people watching. So you got 1.5 million people watching the game, plus the 20,000 that are in the arena. But there's only 10 that are playing the game.
Yep.
You and I, Bryan, are on the court. We're playing.
Exactly right.
Over 1 million people got an opinion about how we play, how we call it, how we see it, what we do.
Correct.
But I would rather be the person in the arena on the court dribbling the ball than be one of the 1 million plus that's critiquing me on social media saying I can dribble better than him.
And we got a great parking spot.
And we got a great parking spot.
But there's two songs that I'm a big song guy. I travel a lot, so I listen. There's two songs that I think if you listen to the words, "Man in the Mirror" by Michael Jackson,
yeah,
"Dance" by Garth Brooks, and I use those songs at all my camp. I wouldn't trade one day that I've had, not one day, in this world of college basketball. I wouldn't trade the people I've got to meet. You and I would not know each other without college basketball. That's the beauty of this whole thing.
Yeah.
And we have completely different sides of the game. I mean, if you think about it, but we would not have crossed paths. I wouldn't know any of my referees. So I wouldn't know any of my mentors that my dad introduced me to. I wouldn't know any of that. So, you know, those two songs, the words to those two songs, just, you know, I can live every day with those.
Well, and I'm also a music person, and I travel a lot like you do. And so there's a song that's been with me recently here called Made for More. And it's by Josh Baldwin, Bethel Music, Jen Johnson. And just to give you a few words of this, it's the chorus, because I wasn't made to be tending a grave. I was called by name, born and raised back to life again. I was made for more. So why would I make a bed in my shame when a fountain of grace is running my way? I know I am yours and I was made for more.
Yeah, no doubt.
So
No doubt.
there's a lot to be said about what we were made for. I think the movie that we would make, I got the name for it because I like coming up with ideas. So the name of our movie, and based on me being a broadcaster and you being an official, I think we should call the movie The Way We See It.
No doubt. That'd be great. I agree. I agree. I mean, it would go everywhere. Probably play it at the Sphere.
Yeah.
Be it at the Sphere and they can have it going on.
That's right. Bring us to the Sphere. Bryan
Bring
Kersey, ACC supervisor of men's basketball officiating, a great friend above all that. And you and I, Bryan, I know we'll be talking on the air and off the air. I've said it to you before, but I will say it to you and live by it now. Let's make sure we keep in touch over these next few months. I love our conversations. They go everywhere. And as much as we've gone well over my time here this morning, I still feel like there's a lot of things I want to talk with you about. What did you say?
Well, I said I apologize for talking so long.
Oh my goodness! Don't apologize for anything, Bryan. Me being able to talk with you is a blessing. Like you said, we could make it 3 hours, and we definitely went over an hour on this one. But I just want to thank you for your friendship, your goodness, and for reminding me that I was made for more. And getting to meet people like you shows me that.
Thank you so much. I love you, brother.
I love you too, Bryan.
I'll talk to you.
I'll talk with you soon.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you. Mm-hmm.
That coming from Bryan Kersey here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Biggest thing that I could take away from this life is I'm somebody that tells people I love them when I love them. And I always thought I'd be first to do it because, you know, I typically felt like I was first to do it growing up. And then you have a moment. I don't have work. I really don't. You know, I never thought that I would end a conversation with "I love you" not coming from me first. So, I love you too, Bryan, and you know that. And I mean, who would have thought that this little kid growing up in little old Syracuse and Bryan Kersey at Newport News, Virginia, that we were going to grow up, both decide in 10th grade that hey, this is what we're going to do, and set out to do it. God help us to get there. We cross paths, and to be on a call, you know, what media person is hearing from an official, I love you, and what official is hearing from a media person, I love you. But that's the gift that God brings. I've lived a life that is tremendous. I don't say that with an ego. I say it with incredible appreciation for God's grace for a man that doesn't deserve it. And, you know, I am not perfect. I've made a million mistakes. I've let God down more times than I'll ever be able to count. But he knows I love him. And he knows that I serve him. You know, I would die on a cross. I'd walk that same path that Jesus walked, and then I'd happily do it because I know that I was made for more. And you know, these conversations, they go so fast. And I can never say enough to people like Bryan because I love him, because I genuinely, I value him. You know, having him on the show is just an excuse to talk to a friend and to share with you things that I think make the show different. We're different here. And that's my superpower, right? That's why I'm never going to stand in the way of anybody chasing their dreams that's not hurting anybody. You know, I want to see you win. Because when you have this, I mean, ACC Commissioner Jim Phillips, he tells me he loves me too. And, you know, I mean, my relationship with Amy Akola, like, I never thought back in 2012, 13, that I was going to connect with the ACC and, you know, have a coordinator of officiating tell me that he loves me and have a commissioner tell me that he loves me, you know, and to hear that genuine. I mean, I'm a person that loves. I will tell people, and people will tell you that in my life. I'll tell you I love you. I'll tell you I love you a million times. My mom and dad do not leave my house without me opening the door. I give them a kiss on the cheek and a hug, and I tell them I love them. And then I tell them I love them probably 3, 4, 5, 7 times on their way to the car, and their way to the car is not that far. So I'm used to saying I love you. And when you hear it back, man, it just makes you feel like everything you complain about in this world don't matter, because it doesn't. So thanks, Bryan. Y'all, you made my day. Not that you haven't before, but you did it again. Let's take a step aside for a fast break. We'll be back on Wake Up Call to wrap things up and wrap the week up right after this.
This is Jim Dispenza, owner of Game Point Sports Complex. You hear the same story across any sport that kids play and any sport that adults play. There's never enough places to play. That was definitely true with volleyball, definitely true with basketball. Could be cheerleading, it could be field hockey, which is what we're seeing now. Every sport has a lack of places to play, and I think Syracuse in particular is a place where it's really bad, despite the fact that we've got a lot of athletic talent around here. We just seem to have not enough places for people to play, and they're going to different places. They're going to Rochester, they're going to, Buffalo. They're going all different places because we don't have a place here, and I felt like that should change. This was a long project from planning all the way through execution to opening the doors. A lot of work went into it, obviously, a lot of money, a lot of resources, and the dream always was kids being in the gym, having a good time. And I've always felt like sports is the most unfiltered joy that you can observe with people that people can experience, because it is fun, it is a sense of accomplishment, it's all of that wrapped into one thing. And so watching kids going up and down the court with big smiles on their faces has been just amazing experience. I'm looking forward to years to come of that same thing. We've taken the time to invest in multiple sports, and then what we're finding is the mere fact that we have a large, clean, well-lit space has opened a lot more doors for us beyond basketball, volleyball, pickleball. Now we're having some interest from cheerleading. We've got girls field hockey coming in, and then also there's quite a bit of room for spectators. We've got bleachers, we've got benches, we've got a concession lounge where people can get food and drinks. We're going to have multiple sports going at the same time, using every square inch of this place for what it was conceived for, which is basically people to come in, have a good time in the sport that they prefer. We manage each situation differently. Everybody has different ability to afford different things. Some are bringing 10, 15 people, some are just 2 people. I've had a lot of situations where it's a father shooting around with his son, it's a mother playing pickleball with her daughter or with her son, and in those situations come up and we work with people, and that's allowed us to have groups from 2 people up to 30 people and have some flexible pricing behind it. We're an organization that is here to work with the community any way we can, and I guess part of it is just making sure that we have the flexibility to put together a plan that makes sense regardless of the size of your group. So in order to book time, the best option is to go to our website, gamepointsports-syr.com. You can click from there and sign up for events, sign up for your own particular training, sign up for birthday parties, all of that.
And now a message from Myers Creek Brewing Company, with locations at their Cazenovia Farm Brewery, Syracuse Inner Harbor Tap Room, and soon-to-be Lake Placid Tap Room.
Well, I think first and foremost, the Feldmeyer family and our team are extremely passionate about what we do. We care very much about what we do. The Feldmeyer family is always investing. Our taproom management team, our brew management team, our marketing management team, and all of the team members that get after it every day, they leave it on the field. They put their heart and soul into it. I know for a fact that everyone that works at Myers Creek wants to be there, and we want them to be there. You know, we want them to feel good about their job. And again, if you've never been to a Myers Creek, especially to the brewery, I mean, I want your eyes to open really big. I want you to see how big of a brand this is. I want you to see where we're going. The sky is the limit, and I feel very proud of that, and I'm very excited about that. When you think of designing a menu for a brewery, it's kind of open to a lot of different interpretations. I mean, you can do American, you can do Asian, you can do Italian, and you just have to find, you know, how that meets that pub style dining experience, that gastropub vibe. And I think it's super fun for us because obviously we know that, you know, everyone in the world is going to sell a pizza or a burger or a french fry, but what can we do to be different? And what can we do to be true to who we are? We are a brewery, you know, a brew pub. So the flavor profiles are kind of all over the place. And I think it's super cool that we have a massive smoker at the brewery in Cazenovia, and we smoke a lot of our products. They're delicious smoked turkey. We have barbecue ribs on Sundays. From a pulled pork sandwich to a chicken wing, you go to the Inner Harbor and you go to the Kaz location and you'll find similarities in the menu, but also things that are a little different and also kind of fit those different demographics or different communities, and also hopefully just drive you to try every tap room that we have open at some point because you get a little something different at each one. You know, we understand how hard it is to, you know, work every day and get after it every day, and when you're done at the end of your day, you want to go out and put your feet up in a good ambiance and good environment. So we take pride in that. We make sure that everyone knows that they're very much valued to us.
Here's a message from Renee from Bryan's Landing, located on 6523 East Seneca Turnpike in Jamesville, New York. Open Tuesdays and Wednesdays for dinner, Thursday through Saturday for lunch and dinner, and Sundays for brunch.
It's a lot like the way that my mom and dad ran their restaurant. We have put in place a lot of people that are family to us, very similar to how my dad hired people that were family to him. And then the tradition I'm carrying on is a lot of the items that are on our menu are my dad's. And he taught our chefs how to recreate his dishes. So I think that Tommy McNerney, who our executive chef is, to him it is an art. And I think that when he does create a dish, it's not just about making the food taste delicious, which is definitely our priority, but it's an art to him, and it's almost like his canvas on a plate where he just wants the colors to look great, and people love it because he takes pride in that. And Bryan and I appreciate that. We want it to obviously look good and taste good. I will tell you, when we opened up, it was 6 weeks before COVID. And what was amazing was the community, our friends and family stepped up, and everybody did takeout. Everybody supported us. Our hearts were just so filled. So to Bryan and I, obviously our friends come all the time, and we just have repeat customers in Jamesville, and I think people going to our previous restaurant in Green Lakes are making the trip to come to Bryan's Landing to support us. And I mean, I think we have great food and a great atmosphere. So it's very, very important to us.
Head to Bryan's Landing, located on 6523 East Seneca Turnpike in Jamesville, New York, where memories have become recipes that are now meals to share with you. Tuesdays and Wednesdays for dinner, Thursday through Saturday for lunch and dinner, and on Sundays for brunch. And be sure to come out for live music Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Life gets busy, and sometimes that means us running around. So K-9 Kamp Dog Daycare offers you an opportunity to give your dog a place to stay while you take care of what you need to throughout the day. K-9 Kamp Dog Daycare is located on 228 Old Bridge Street in East Syracuse, New York. You can see it from the highway, and it's just off of Erie Boulevard across from BJ's Wholesale Club. Call 315-437-7110. That's 315-437-7110 to schedule an appointment to bring your dog in and tour the facility. Appointments are Monday through Thursday after 6:30, where you and your dog can see everything that K-9 Kamp Dog Daycare has to offer, including a self-serve dog wash and a retail store filled with all of your dog's wants and needs, including food, treats, harnesses, leashes, and more, making K-9 Kamp Dog Daycare your one-stop shop for your furry loving friend. Right, Lily?
And a welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. I appreciate you being here with us Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And I'm laughing when I'm saying that because we always seem to be here at noon or beyond that. So I thank you for being here and hanging out. I thank Bryan Kersey for an awesome conversation as always and bringing out the best in me, just commanding me to be a better version of myself. And I don't even know if he knows that he does that, but he does. And, the annoying moment of the week with Carvel DeWitt, to give you a double dose of that today, lead, learn, evolve, ad-lib, and deliver is the acronym. And for lead, that's what it means. And Chick-fil-A Cicero being here with us and being able to bring you be about it, don't just talk about it, as well as when a door doesn't open and what that means and the multiple meanings of that in life and how we learn and grow and gain knowledge and wisdom. And then the top dog of the week, right? Having the opportunity to honor our top dogs. And I could say Max Scherzer for the Toronto Blue Jays. I could have easily have picked him as well. So, top dog of the week is a place where I can go to a lot of different areas. I thank K-9 Kamp Dog Daycare because I love Lorraine and I love the work that she does. She's just a very wonderful, just amazing human being who cares about so many. And I'm always praying and hoping the best for Lorraine and that she has a great life because she always tries to help everybody else have a great life. And I want to see her have the same. So shout out to Lorraine and Chad and the whole team that's there at K-9 Kamp Dog Daycare. You should absolutely call them if you need to bring your dog somewhere for the day. That's 315-437-7110, 315-437-7110. So make sure you get in touch with them. Let them know that DT sent you their way. And, of course, back to Bryan, just really appreciate having him here on the show. Hey, my final word for this week is I just want to tell y'all that, man, it's not easy, and that's okay. You know what I mean? It's not easy, and I think here on the show, I challenge myself to be better. I talk about how we never personally attack on this show, and if I say something or if I have a feeling about something, like, do I think Indiana should have been in the college football playoff last year? No, but I'm not knocking it. I'm not knocking the school. And I'm not knocking Kurt Signetti or the student athletes there or anybody that went to Indiana or lives in Indiana. And I think that that's the misconception, today is we have to spend so much time like apologizing for things before they even come out of our mouths or apologize for them after, or we have to clarify. I mean, I know that, my stance on the Big Ten and their unfair rankings in college football and in college basketball, I would say too, I don't hate the Big Ten. I don't have any problems with the Big Ten. The Big Ten's never done anything negative to me. I enjoy covering. I loved going out to Penn State for the college football playoff this past year. I have a lot of respect. I said if football is a Southern thing, then Penn State should have a Southern zip code. I mean, I don't know how you could give a better compliment than that. And so, I definitely think that it's kind of ridiculous that we have to like you can't just say something or joke about something in today's world without people getting weird about it. But, I think the only way to combat that is to stop adhering to the rules that people are trying to force upon us. Right. I think society changes when we kind of bend to certain things, like sometimes, yeah, you can give more context and other times it's like, why can't you just tell a joke? And there's comedians, people that talk about the fact that how can you be a comedian in today's world where everybody's offended about everything all the time? And so I think that side of it is like people need to chill out and relax. But I think in the other side of it, I need to call myself, to the spotlight and say, I could have been better. I think there's times where I have, come across in a way that maybe sounded personally attacking, or, I could have been better about it. The media has been a bully for a long time, and not just toward me, toward others. And there's things about the media I really don't agree with. And yet I think I could have said it a couple times and been done with it, but I leaned into it, right? And I think the media has been such a bully, and I think I bullied back at times. I think that, I instigated. I kind of put a target on my back, and I didn't need to do that, right? So as we come toward the end of this year, I think I've called to my own attention that I didn't need to attack the media for attacking me. There was times where I said things where I maybe was rude or crass or was breaking my rule of not attacking something or going after something. So I think I've been my own annoying moment of the week at times, because I didn't need to repeat myself that much, or I needed to listen more than speak, or I became the bully when I was combating the bully, or, I spent too much time, going after something where, because it's like when you feel like you've been attacked for something, right? And you feel like there's a perpetrator and a victim and you're the victim of it, then you start responding to the perpetrator so much that you almost feel like now you're the perpetrator, right? Now you're perpetrating, you're creating the negative atmosphere. And I think there's times in my life on and off the air where I'm standing up for myself, and that's clear. And then I think it's like it shifts from standing up for yourself to now being negative, right? You're being the negative one. And I found in a lot of my conversations with my parents that I've been extremely negative. Have things happen to me that I don't appreciate? Yes. Has there been negativity and stuff that's been unfair? Yes. But I found every day I'm talking to my parents about something negative. And I don't like that. You know what I mean? Like I've had to call my mom and dad and admit to them and been like, I think I've been really negative with you guys. I think I've been, I think I call you up, and on the other end of this phone call, I mean, you're probably frustrated and aggravated that, your son is constantly focusing on negativity and not positivity. Like yesterday I had massive news to tell my dad, and I told him, and then I followed it up by complaining about some random person on social media that decided to respond to something, and their response to the thing that they replied to, I was like, their response showed that I don't even think they even listened to the thing that they were responding to, because their response it didn't make sense. It was like they're giving me an attitude for something I didn't say, but other people in the media have said. And so it's like, did you even take the time to listen to this? Because I'm actually on the other side of it, and I'm probably agreeing with you more than I'm disagreeing with you. So you just complained about this, which shows you didn't even read it. But then I'm like, why did I even respond? You know what I mean? Like, what does it matter? If somebody's going to respond to something that I've done, and the response shows that they weren't even paying attention to the words that were coming out of my mouth, why is it my job to tell them, like, hey, you should have listened to me, you should have paid attention? If you're willing to have an irrational response to something, then you're probably going to have an irrational response to my reaction. Or why does it even matter? I should have called my dad and said, hey, Dad, I got this really awesome opportunity. And that should have been it. But it was like, no, I have to tell my dad that I let somebody get under my skin. And, like I said, I think we all have our moments. And I think, I've definitely lived this year being the person that's being attacked to the person that's standing up for themselves, to now I've stood up for myself, and now it's shifting into now like I'm attacking back. So it went from I'm the victim to now I'm firing back. And there's no reason to. And I didn't need to tell you that. I didn't need to step to a microphone and a screen and have something on recording that says I was wrong, that I could have been better, that I went from being attacked to being the attacker. I didn't have to tell you any of that, but why am I doing that? Because I think it's important to admit that you're wrong. And if I'm wrong, why not do it in public, right? I think if I in public did something wrong, then I in public need to apologize because I need to set an example. And how many people apologize these days and say, I think I went too far. I think I said this too much. Or, I think I did the right thing and then it shifted into now me being the bully. And, I thought about that last night. I'm like, I have the wherewithal and the honesty with myself to admit that I'm wrong, but will I admit that professionally or will I just admit that in secret? Right. And, I believe I want people to be honest and fair and kind and consistent. So if I fail, well, then I need to say that and I need to come forward and talk about that. And I think there's moments where I've gone against my things that I say this show is, that this show is not attacking, that the show is not, going in that direction of like, okay, you hurt me. Now I'm going to punch back. I think blocking a punch is different than throwing a punch. And I know some people watching and listening would be like, well, Dan, if they hit you, then hit them back. But what does that serve? And what does that show? Right? What does hitting somebody back do? Right? Because if you hit me and I hit you, now you want to hit me. And if you hit me, I want to hit you back. And now we're going to want to hit each other forever. And now it's never going to stop. And, I am a firm believer that you don't give free airtime to people, places, and things that hurt you. I think we have every right to talk about things we've experienced in life. But I think, there's talking about it, and then there's harping on it, and then there's, now I'm trying to hurt you because you hurt me. And so for any time that I've gone from talking about it and standing up for myself and it's transitioned into now I'm hurting you back or I'm attempting to, I'm sorry. Because I live my life in the open. People know that I was married. And I've talked about things that were bad in that. But, I had my bad moments too. I had my moments where I should have kept my mouth shut, right? Should have thought before I spoke, is what I mean. Should have not sworn. Should have listened. Should have put my phone down at the dinner table, right? Should have asked her about how her day was going and listened to it instead of just wanting to talk about how great my day was. So, were we right for each other? No. Did I have many reasons to leave? Yeah. But I could have been a better husband. And if I ever get the opportunity again, there's a lot of things that I do not want to have to feel that I put myself through that I didn't need to. And I think it's important to, because this is a show where I take an opinion about teams and people and things that are going on, I think it's important to know that, if you've listened to the show, you've heard me take very strong stances. And I think it's important to know that if I stand on the line of Indiana's not a top 3 team in the country right now, that people still know I respect Indiana, I respect Kurt Signetti, I respect the student athletes, I respect the institution, I respect the fans. I just don't agree that they're top 3 right now. But doesn't mean I hate you, doesn't mean I wish bad on you, doesn't mean that you can't be top 3 in my mind, and doesn't mean I'm stuck in the mud and I'm never going to, see it. There's times where I've taken an opinion and I think in that moment I was right. And then that team does something down the road. And why am I not allowed to say, like, as they've evolved, so has my opinion of them. Right? I think that's definitely happened. I think Ohio State gets an unfair advantage in the polls because they're in the Big Ten and because their name's Ohio State. But I also watched them play in the college football playoff on site, on location, and said, hey, his team was better than I thought they were. Or, they actually lived up to the hype that not everybody does. I think saying that Ohio State is given an unfair ranking in the polls year in and year out is true. But that's not me saying that they can't win a national championship. I never said they couldn't win a national championship. I didn't say they sucked. I didn't say they weren't worthy. I didn't say they didn't put the work in. And so I think there's a lot of misconceptions in today's society that if you disagree with something, then there's like a million other things that come off of it. Just look at how people vote. People like, if you vote for this person, then you're this, 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 and this. If you vote for that person, then you're this, 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 and this. And it's like, I'm not any of those things. I voted for this person because of this. None of that other stuff that you're saying is why I voted for them, but people want to judge you. And it's so crazy that we live in a society right now where people are quick to judge you and tell you everything you are, even if there's no factual evidence to prove it. But then you're not allowed to judge them back. And if there is factual evidence to prove your standpoint, it doesn't matter. Like, there's people that will scream and tell you who you are and what you are and how you think that are completely wrong. And then you could tell them who they are and what they are and how they think, and you're completely right, and they won't listen. There's this like craziness to, if I sit down at a table with someone and we disagree and I present the facts, they will spit and yell and scream at my facts, but then they'll throw me a bunch of opinions that have no factual basis, and they will not admit that they're wrong. And I just find that insane, that not only are people not admitting when they're wrong, people are fighting facts with fantasy, and when the facts disprove the fake world that they're living in, they still won't hear people out. Like, to me, if we sit and we have a conversation and you present the facts and the facts disapprove what I'm presenting, then I'm wrong. But like, people, it's not even like people are coming to conversations trying to learn anything. They've just taken an opinion, and whether there's anything there to factually back it or not, they're in that opinion. And they will scream at somebody for not changing their opinion to the opinion that they want them to change it to, but they won't admit when they're wrong. And it's just wild to me that like people won't admit when they're wrong, but they want everybody else to be wrong. People don't want to hear the facts, but then they state that they stand on fact. And like, there's just a lot of hypocrisy that goes on. And that's why I apologize today, because I think I've been a hypocrite at times. I think that I went from being the victim to being the person that was attacking. Like, instead of saying, hey, I don't like that this person does this, or this group does that, or this happens here, like that. And when I say this group, like, I don't like that the media does this, this, and this, I became the attacker. I was like, bring it on. You know what I mean? And I don't want that. I don't want to fight with people, and there's something that's a lot, it's, do I know that people from the media have stolen from me? Yes. But do I have to bring it up and, challenge them over and over and over again? No, because at that point, now instead of me just stating like, hey, I don't appreciate media stealing from other media, whether it's me or somebody else that they're stealing from, I mean, that's okay. That's somebody saying, I don't appreciate you doing that to me. But then when I turn around and I'm like, calling them names or attacking them, then now I'm like, you know what I mean? It's like you're becoming, it's like two yelling pieces, and you don't need to do that. I think you pick your place in life of when you stick up for things, and, but you have to be careful of getting the confidence to stick up for yourself and then having that transition into, now I'm going to throw stones at you since you threw stones at me. I never want to be the person that throws stones. And I think sometimes I have. I know I have. So I'm putting my stone down on the ground. I ain't throwing it no more. I think it's important for people to admit when they're wrong in life. And how can I ask that of the world if I can't do that myself? So I've been wrong sometimes, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry for those moments where I was wrong. And I hope that this world can do the same, and we can all heal. Because the quicker we realize that we're not all right all the time, I think a lot of people would not fight as much. Maybe this world would be a lot safer, a lot healthier, a lot happier. We can always strive to be better, right? So let's do that today. We'll take our final step aside, and we'll be back right after this on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios.
Hi, this is Amy from Mother's Cupboard, home of the whole frittata. We are open daily 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. For takeout orders, call 315-432-0942 and tune in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for our monthly food challenge and try our Wake Up Call signature menu item available 7 days a week. Here at Mother's Cupboard, we are Central New York, and it's our honor to serve you.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory remind us that every day is worth celebrating at 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. Open Monday through Saturday in-store and always online at maandpaspopcorn.com. Serving our Central New York community and beyond, order anywhere, anytime at maandpaspopcorn.com. Stop in to get a tin at Ma and Pa's on 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York to get your half-price refills for the rest of your life. Come to Ma and Pa's for your holiday gift giving for family, friends, employees, and clients. And remember, for fundraising and events, to call 315-450-6272. That's 315-450-6272. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you?
This is Jimmer Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. I kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacting the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily. We bring in local produce. We prepare to order in the kitchen. We hand bread our chicken. We hand spin our milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have in any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
In these unique times, there are those in our community that give us a sense of normalcy and positivity. Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville has been here for you for over 35 years and is here now. Call 315-638-1234 or order online at pizzamanbville.com to bring those familiar tastes into your home. And remember to come see our monthly on-site broadcasts centered around the community and our Baldwinsville Bees. Pizza Man in Baldwinsville. Any way you slice it, they are always here for you. Looking for your next ride? Look no further than Great Lakes Honda City, located on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Serving our community for decades, their new and pre-owned vast array of vehicles are available to you Monday through Saturday on site. To search from home, shop at GreatLakesHondaCity.com. Call 315-365-5576 to set up an appointment. That's 315-365-5576 for Great Lakes Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Great cars, great people, Great Lakes.
All right, you need to come out here and get yourself the Brooklyn Pickle. I was talking about this with one of my buddies. I was like, yo, there's no better sandwich in the state of New York than the Brooklyn Pickle. And now that I found out that they're going down to North Carolina, we are taking over your taste buds everywhere you are, wherever you're going to be. You need to get yourself out to the Brooklyn Pickle. Pinehurst, you just realized that you found yourself the best sandwich shop that you're ever going to have. This is a glorious moment. It's a blessing to your community. You're welcome. Brooklyn in the house, baby. Go over to the Brooklyn Pickle. You already know what it is.
You heard the man. Head to Brooklyn Pickle Pinehurst on 1788 Old Morgantown Road in Southern Pines, North Carolina.
Carvel DeWitt, it's what happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carvelite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvalanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carvelite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant.
GG Cards and Breaks. Like, comment, subscribe.
GG Cards and Breaks comes to you on 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York. They're your one-stop sports card and trading card shop. You can head in there for hockey, soccer, basketball, baseball, football, and more, including Disney Lorcana, One Piece, Magic the Gathering, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Pokemon. You never know what you're going to find at GG Cards and Breaks, and what's there right now may not be there in a couple hours, so get yourself over to 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York, right off of Teal Ave. Tuesday through Saturday from 10 to 6, Sundays from 10 to 5. They are closed on Mondays, and you will find singles, packs, boxes, graded cards, and they're the only store that I know of that has every NBA, every MLB, and every NFL team with their own box. They go the extra mile. They're constantly expanding what they do, how they do it, what they carry. And they're evolving all the time. And that's because of the great minds of Josh Gideon and Anthony Campbell. So thank you to the team at GG Cards and Breaks for helping us feel like big kids every single day, for fanning that flame of our big kid spirit, and for always, always bringing it to the nth degree and just doing amazing things. Cards are pieces of cardboard, right? But at the end of the day, it's stuff that brings people together, creates friendships, relationships, bonds, and it's just so much fun. Something as simple as a card can build friendships that can last a lifetime, and they have. And GG Cards and Breaks is just a great example of how one card can put you on a path that can create so many wonderful relationships that you would have never found anywhere else. GG Cards and Breaks has done that for me. It's done it for others. Can do it for you. So it's not just a sports card and trading card thing. It's a community thing. Find your way over to GG Cards and Breaks. Let them know that DT sent you. We appreciate y'all for going to 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York. Big time shout out to Chick-fil-A DeWitt. Talk about relationships. Megan Sorber and her team doing a fantastic job building their bonds here in our community. Chick-fil-A DeWitt's on the corner of Bridge Street and Erie Boulevard. You can't miss it. There was a light created there for it. And the amount of traffic that goes into this giant behemoth of a Chick-fil-A in their massive brick building, they're happy to have you inside to dine in. And in their double drive-thru, they're happy to have you come in and pull into the drive-thru and find your way through there to have an experience on the outside of their wonderful brick building. And of course, there's catering, there's fundraising, and there's ordering on the app. So many ways to get involved with Chick-fil-A DeWitt. We look forward to you going over there today and doing that. And just know that they are open Monday through Saturday, closed on Sundays to honor the Lord. And Chick-fil-A DeWitt is waiting to see you today, and it's lunchtime, so I'm sure a bunch of you are in line right now while you're watching and listening to the show on the corner of Bridge and Erie, thanks to Megan Sorber and her team at Chick-fil-A DeWitt.
Avicoli's restaurant, located on 7839 Oswego Road in Liverpool, New York, has been serving our community for decades. Your place to go for home cooking on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road is just minutes from Liverpool High School. And every single month, Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora is on site, on location, with Liverpool sports, student athletes, coaches, and administration telling their stories throughout the year. We look forward to seeing you on site at Avicoli's for their casual pizza side, their fine dining, as well as their bar. And of course, you can order online at myavicollis.com. That's myavicollis.com. For takeout, delivery, and catering, call 315-622-5100. That's 315-622-5100. Come on into the neighborhood spot Avicoli's, open 7 days a week in Liverpool, New York. K-9 Campground Dog Boarding is your home away from home for your furry-loving friends. Open 7 days a week with drop-off and pickup times in the morning and later on in the day and early evening. K-9 Campground Dog Boarding is the spot to trust with your dog for short and long-term stays. Call 315-299-4013 for more information. That's 315-299-4013, and go to K9campground.com as well. That's KAMP ground.com, where you will find all of the information on their different cabins, which include the classic cabin, executive cabin, grand cabin, and luxury cabin. K9 Campground Dog Boarding, where your dog will have indoor and outdoor areas as well as their own private cabin for any size, any breed, as well as dogs with different needs. Dog parents and dogs alike choose K9 Campground Dog Boarding. Isn't that right, Lily? Looking for your next ride? Look no further than Great Lakes Honda City, located on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Serving our community for decades, their new and pre-owned vast array of vehicles are available to you Monday through Saturday on site. To search from home, shop at GreatLakesHondaCity.com. Call 315-365-5576 to set up an appointment. That's 315-365-5576 for Great Lakes Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Great cars, great people, Great Lakes.
And I want to thank you once again for being with us here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. Wake Up Call here with you Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time, as I tell you that at 12:34 in the afternoon as we continue to talk on today's show. And I thank you for being here with us. YouTube.com, Facebook.com, both /WakeUpCallDT, and on WakeUpCallDT.podbean.com. Thanks for tuning in with us on Wake Up Call, up and down the East Coast, the Midwest, the West Coast, and all around the world. And of course, many thanks to those of you that are with us on Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, Player FM, Podbean, Podchaser.com, Podvine, Spotify, TuneIn, and YouTube, connecting with the show simply by searching Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT. Make sure you subscribe and follow after you do that. And many thanks to our wonderful partners in Central and Upstate New York. I wouldn't tell you to go to any one of these if I don't go there myself. Big time shout out to Great Lakes Honda City, Carvel DeWitt, the Wildcat Sports Pub, GG Cards and Brakes, Myers Creek, with 2 locations, 33 Rippleton Road in Cazenovia, out in the country, and of course at the Syracuse Inner Harbor on 720 Van Rensselaer Street in Syracuse, New York. We look forward to seeing you out there this Saturday, October 18th, for a Wake Up Call Game Day Live, as Isaac Elford and myself, Dan Tortora, return to Myers Creek in the Inner Harbor, and we will be going live Saturday, October 18th, before the Syracuse Pitt rivalry game. The game kicks off at 7:30. We will be pre-gaming at 4:30. So you have somewhere to be. Myers Creek this Saturday, October 18th at 4:30 p.m. to preview Syracuse versus Pitt in a game day experience that is truly unique because we do it differently on Wake Up Call. Chick-fil-A Cicero, want to thank them, Game Point Sports Complex, Chick-fil-A DeWitt, Pizza Man, K-9 Kamp Dog Daycare, Mother's Cupboard, Ma and Pa's, the snack capital of the world, Bryan's Landing, K-9 Campground Dog Boarding, Avicoli's, and we are the exclusive multimedia marketing partner of your Bryan and Stratton College Bobcats of Syracuse. Find the Bobcats every single month here where sports meets that thing called life. So make sure you check out our Bobcats every single month, student athletes, coaches, administration, and alumni. You can find it all by going to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Click subscribe, hit the notification bell, and find our BSC Syracuse playlist. The Bobcats are also on wakeupcalldt.com and have their own page underneath the exclusive partners tab on wakeupcalldt.com. For more information, go to syracuse.bscbobcats.com and go Bobcats. The Binghamton University Bearcats are exclusive multimedia marketing partners with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Find your Bearcats every single Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. We call it Bearcat Time here on Wake Up Call. With student athletes, coaches, administration, and alumni, you can find all of our conversations with the Bearcats by going to wakeupcalldt.com's homepage, and underneath the exclusive partners tab, you'll find them there. You also find our library on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Click subscribe, hit the notification bell, and find our Binghamton playlist. For more information, go to binghamtonbearcats.com and go Bearcats. The Onondaga Community College Lasers are exclusive multimedia marketing partners with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. They're with us every single month, every other Wednesday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time in the Laser Lounge. And you will find them next on Wednesday, October 29th at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. Student athletes, coaches, and administration joining me here to speak on the Lasers and give you a behind-the-scenes look at their sports programs, their stories, their journeys, knowledge, wisdom, adversity, and what OCC truly is to our community of Central New York and beyond. You can find all of our content by going to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Click subscribe, hit the notification bell, and find our OCC playlist. You'll also find the Lasers on wakeupcalldt.com's homepage and underneath the exclusive partners tab. For more information, go to onondagalazers.com and go Lasers. I want to thank you for tuning into today's broadcast of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora from the Great Lakes Honda City Studios. I want to thank Carvel DeWitt for the annoying moment of the week. I want to thank Chick-fil-A Cicero for lead, learn, evolve, ad-lib, and deliver. And I want to give thanks to K-9 Kamp Dog Daycare, the only place to bring your dog for daily care. And that is on 228 Old Bridge Street in East Syracuse. I want to thank K-9 Kamp Dog Daycare for the top dog of the week and the top dogs that we got to celebrate here and show some love to this morning. Definitely appreciate them so very much. My top dogs of the week, Joe Flacco of the Cincinnati Bengals in his second game, looking like he's been there forever and in 18 years in the NFL, and proud to back him as a rookie and back him to this day. And of course, I want to give a special thanks once again to Georgia Tech and their college football program, 6-0. And they are also top dogs of the week for me because of the incredible job that they've done and because of the fire and the passion and the energy that they brought into the season has truly been seen on the field. So it wasn't just talk from Haynes King and the crew. So shout out to them. And many thanks to ACC Supervisor of Men's Basketball Officiating, Mr. Bryan Kersey. Great friend of mine, and I love him very much. So shout out to the ACC and to Bryan Kersey. With that being said, from the Great Lakes Honda City Studios, I will see you this Saturday on site, on location at Myers Creek, Syracuse Inner Harbor. This Saturday, October 18th, you have a 7:30 kickoff at night for Syracuse Pitt rivalry. Before that, Wake Up Call Game Day is going to join you at Myers Creek to get you ready for the game at 4:30 p.m. So 3 hours before kickoff, 4:30 p.m., this Saturday, October 18th, Isaac Alford and myself, Dan Tortora, a.k.a. DT, I'll be on site, on location at Myers Creek, 720 Van Rensselaer Street, about 10 minutes from the Dome. So come and see us this Saturday, October 18th at 4:30 for Wake Up Call Game Day Live pregame show. We'll get you ready for the game and then head off to the Dome, and we'll see you out there for the 7:30 kickoff. God bless, no stress, do your best, have a wonderful day. Find us on our social media, always on wakeupcalldt.com. Be good to each other, be good to yourself, and know that God loves you. Have a great day. We'll talk soon.